Was I muted that whole time? That's funny. I have been talking this whole time and I've been muted. God, I hate when that happens. I need to make like a big red light. I think that's the only thing that I can do. I was saying, I don't think I know a Jason. I don't know any Jasons in my life. I don't think there might be one, but it's vague. That's funny. I've been talking the whole... God, that sucks. The whole beginning of the stream is now embarrassing. I wanted to buy one of those, and they're like $75. So for the like old Art Deco style ones, because I want to get an Art Deco style one, put a smart LED in it, you know, a smart LED bulb or bulbs in it, so that I can have one at the door of the shop that will go red live on air, and then I can have one over here that can give me like statuses that would be like green for everything's good to go, red for muted or something like that. That would be really cool. And then off for not streaming. That would be really fun to get. But again, the proper Art Deco one, and it's one that my brother used to have, and I would love to know what the hell happened to that thing, because I think it went into his keepsakes, like his keepsake boxes, and he has it at his house or something like that, and he's not doing anything with it. I want that. I want that live on air sign, because I could really do a cool project with that. That would help me keep from being muted. You could do all that with Node Red once I get an MQTT broker working. You got people to wish Jason a happy birthday. I don't do that. I don't do that. I'm not cool enough. I'm not cool enough for it to be meaningful in any way. What was I saying? I was saying like collaborating with other YouTube, like other streamers, is very difficult for me, because like we had a perfect collaboration with Tom Thinks where he needed a button in order to not get a sports injury from streaming, and it was just like the perfect thing for me. It was like you know, ergonomic design, it was 3D printing, it was all the things that I do. And it's tough for me to figure out how to collaborate with other YouTubers. Like Uo's Lab is coming up with all of these insane ideas and creatively doing them, making fun streams where things happen very quickly. That is an incredible asset. Like, that's a really cool thing that he's been able to do. I was saying there were a lot of follows from the Last Miles raid, and I said I wanted to watch more Last Miles and other content creators in this space, but I shouldn't do that because then I'll take on their memes and projects and personalities, and I don't want to do that. I'm too impressionable. You know, you watch AVE and you start being like, keep your stick on the ice, and it's like, wait, no, that's not my thing. That's some other person who's broadcast a fun stream, and I just don't want that to become a thing, you know? You look at his subreddit and everybody's trying to talk like AVE, and it doesn't work. You're not from that area of Canada. It's fine for the memes, but I mean, it's not something I want to do as a content creator. So it's tough. How do I collaborate other than being like a guest on somebody else's stream? And I was guest that one time for Cosmo Quest X. I don't know how that went. I don't really know. Everybody will tell me it's totally fine, but I don't know how that went. Because I'm in there, they're like talking about like 3D printing for space, right? Which is like this cool, like cutting edge kind of thing where you can just send somebody up with a bunch of plastic and they can make tools that will help them along their way. And my anecdotal impression of 3D printers was, we don't even have good 2-dimensional printers, let alone 3-dimensional printers. The technology has come quite a long way, and I was shocked that it's so effective. And that's my entire impression. That's it. It's not very exciting. So I don't know. I've been trying to flex my creative muscles a little bit more, but yeah. I played a lot of Abiotic Factor over the past couple weeks. Come guest on a repair chance. Ace Console repairs the coder, computer booter, and Joey does tech. I don't know them. I don't know them. But those are, what, computer repair? I mean, I see computer in one of them. None of us are charismatic enough to give you memes. Well, I'll have to take that list and maybe watch one of them or something. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's tough. It's like, what do I do? Why are my chamfers so bad? Wait a sec. What's going on with these prints? This needs love. Console. Oh man. Coding on camera, and I've watched some of the recent Rabaz streams where he's almost gotten sort of coding adjacent with his game dev, which is awesome. I love that he's doing it. Coding on stream is so rough because you have a bunch of people who all have their own idea of how to get to the solution of a problem, and they give you their impression, and it's always skewed. And if you follow one, maybe another one says something similar about what you're doing at the time, and it gets you off track. It's like the same thing when you look up like how to do anything in Linux. How do I do this thing in Linux? Well, first you should grow a silicon crystal. And it's like, well, okay. Why is my printer so bad at this? I think it's the number of sidewalls that it's allowing itself. Because these were printed directly straight out, just so that I could get a good texture on them, but that distance could use a little doctoring too. I moved it by 0.05 millimeter, 0.05, and then every now and then there's a little thread that kind of threatens to ruin the whole print. That's something to be looked at. Those should fit a little tighter than that, just a little bit. I think it's the BL Touch is sat for a long time and it's wearing away. My mouse cable is broken, so it disconnects at random times. Brr, I mean, modern day solution, replace the whole mouse. Modern day ultra DIY solution, put a USB plug on the mouse and use just a USB mouse cable. Modern other day solution is cut a USB cable and put it in there and try to figure out strain relief. I don't know how you would do that. You spring, like a spring over the cable. If you got springs lying around, I've done that before. I like that. I like a good spring cable relief because then you know it's got like kind of a, it allows for a long curve instead of a sharp turn. I don't know. The mice I have, well, actually not this one. The other Steel series that I have like a USB mini micro plug just right there, but then they put all this strain relief structure on that part of the mouse. It's an old mouse and it's falling apart. Well, then nothing of significance is lost, huh? That's crazy that the cable was the weak point in it. You know, like this one I've used a lot over the past umpteen years, probably since 2018 or something. When did I buy this thing? I don't know. And the problem that it has is with the nubs on the scroll wheel wearing down. I've been happy with Logitech G30. Everybody's Logitech, Logitech, Logitech. Why do you guys like Logitech so much? No, it's fine. Yeah, everybody loves their Logitech mice. Holy shit. I always hear about them. Razer fanboy. I like Steel Series because it's the Microsoft mouse, but I know that I have Stockholm Syndrome because these things keep breaking on me. They definitively break too. They just die. Like whole thing just dies. Or some other mechanical machining thing. Oh, they're British. They're Danish? I'll have to see if I can source another one of those scroll wheel buttons, because that's an easy solder. I'll just have to get down to it again and take a look at what it is and see how to search it. One of the few wireless that still lets you change the battery without soldering. That's nice. But that's just like regular, is that non-rechargeable batteries? I don't know much about Logitech product lineups. They are Danish. Okay, well, now I know. Now I know. They are Danes. It is now known. I don't know what we're going to work on today. I vaguely said power supply, so I guess we'll start assembling that and see where we get to. The screens have not come in the mail yet, so. I see. So it will take rechargeables. Will it take, like, the 18650s? Because that'll way overvoltage the thing. Like, blow it up. I was always wondering about that with like, the, with my insulin pump. If I could put, like not an 18650, but whatever the size is that compares to a AAA of lithium ion battery in there, if it would be able to take it, because it's 1.5 volts for the whole pump to run it for a while. And I was buying lithium batteries, not lithium ion, just lithium batteries, which, you know, probably pretty wasteful, but that would power my pump for a month. So what would happen if I got a rechargeable lithium ion battery? Well, you're bumping the voltage up to 4 volts from 1.5. So that could wreak havoc on a lot of stuff, especially if your microcontroller, whatever's running the thing, has just unfettered battery running to it, because you're trying to make a device that works through a huge range of voltages all the way until it's almost dead. You want to maximize that battery life out of a single AAA, which is what they do. So I have a feeling if I put a rechargeable battery, a rechargeable lithium-ion battery in there, it would go, and then stop working. You weren't able to see Scott's message. Yeah, it's YouTube. There's a logo in there. Yeah, this is my co-host. Step down a voltage with a regular circuit. Then you need like an extra PCB that you would put inside the insulin pump. I'm talking about an insulin pump, so it's like a super sealed. This is a mini-med insulin pump, which is a little bit water resistant, so it's all sandwiched together and plastic welded and stuff. Get a rechargeable AA if you want to. Yeah, okay, I already got that message. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's something that I was thinking about, but it's I don't think they use like a voltage regulator inside of those circuits, or if they do have one, the voltage manager IC probably goes up to like 2 volts or something. It's probably not all that, you know. I actually don't know. I haven't taken apart a mini-med insulin pump. I've got 2 sitting around here somewhere, potentially as backups, although I think the T-Slim that I still have together as a backup. It's insulin pumps have a 4-year warranty. If you buy like a pump, not the pods like I have. The pods like I have, 2 days, throw them out. I keep all of mine because there's a really nasty microcontroller in there that I would want to take over someday, but we don't have time. We don't have the bandwidth for those projects. Anyway, with an insulin pump, you get this device. You get a device, and then you have supplies that get changed out because the human body rejects like foreign objects. You only want your sites to be in like a maximum of 3 days. So you have all of these changeable things on the pump, like the reservoir, the tube, and then the sticker that goes on your body that has the tube going under the surface of the skin. Those are the rechargeable, or the replaceable parts that you constantly get. The pump itself is a little piece of technology that has, you know, a very accurate, you know, metering for pushing a plunger in, and that thing costs probably, well, $5,000 is what I was quoted like years and years ago. It's an expensive piece of little kit that doesn't cost that much, like at cost. It's just when you add medical pricing on top of it, it's ridiculous. And then that thing is warranted for 4 years, and it's warranted to the degree where if anything goes wrong, they will replace it as fast as they can. There was a time when T-Slim, the insulin pump that I used to have in like before 2016, something went wrong with the pump. And I called them, and I went through customer service, and they were ready to send a courier. They were going to fly somebody out to me to do an exchange of broken and working insulin pump because it was a weekend, and I needed to not stop pump therapy. And I was like, don't do that. I'm just going to go on injections for a day or two. Which is tough. It's tough to changing the care and management of diabetes can be fatal. It's like a careful thing that you've got to consider and work with. When I flipped to these pods, these things, I actually had an incident where the pod became slightly dislodged, and it wasn't actually delivering insulin. There's a little cannula at the tip of this thing. This thing is a Bluetooth device that is delivering insulin to my arm, but I had an incident where it became slightly dislodged. I was helping my friend put a shelf in his garage in like 90-degree heat, and I sweated too much. I got too sweaty, and so it dislodged a little bit, and the tube came out, and I didn't know. So I was without insulin for a significant amount of time going, why are my glucose levels bad? And that led to a DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis, which is when your blood turns into acid. It's not as fun as it looks in the Alien movie, especially not the new Alien movie. Not fun. So I had to do home care of DKA, which is drink carbs, give insulin, your body desperately needs insulin, and then flush the system. It was rough. Yeah, that is actually 204th time I didn't die. Yeah, one time my glucose level was 14. That's like death. That's your body is out of resources. You must construct additional pylons. We need Vespine gas. But yeah, a lot of well, the other diabetic story is oh, I know somebody, uncle, grandma, second cousin who's diabetic. They sawed their legs off, and you're like, cool, thank you for telling me about that. My life is enriched by the story of your legless aunt, cousin, uncle, twice removed. It's like every other person. Oh, I had an aunt who was diabetic and her fingers fell off. Like, why are you telling me this? I don't need that. Thank you for just the worst. My mouse is making me insane. Oh, it's connecting and disconnecting. Oh, that's horrible. Do you still have a sound on the USB connection? Be-doop, 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 be-doop. Slips a couple 750 watts, 62 amps. Server PSUs on the bench. I get offered, believe it or not, more than you would think. More than you would think, people offer me computer power supplies because everybody buys a cheap one and then they blow up and they go, hey, bother, do you want a computer power supply? I say, no, shove it up your something. I've already cursed. Shove it up your ass. I don't want computer power supplies. I've got like 4. I don't need them. They're useful sometimes if you're building like a benchtop power supply, but other than that, like, no, they're just not. I just don't have any space for them. That is a lot of amps. 62 amps, 750 watts is what's powering my game computer right now, but you shove it up your ass. No, because it's your power supply. But thank you for shoving your sub up my ass for 16 months. I appreciate it. XFX 650 watt power supply that's 11 years old. Jeez. I don't skimp on, I get, EVGA's burned me before, but I do buy EVGA for power supplies. It's best not to meddle with trying to save money on the power supply. If you can't afford the power supply, you can't afford the rest of the computer. That's like, just don't do it, because that power supply is in charge of the rest of the computer. No other component can singularly blow up the rest of the computer. So don't make it cheap. EVGA had a whoopsie, so I don't trust them anymore. Yeah, me too. I had an EVGA motherboard during a LAN party. We all got together with our computers, and I was futzing around, and I'm like, why isn't this, like, it's like not, something's not working here. There's like a component that's not working. And in real time, we were able to see a cascade of failures in the EVGA motherboard. Like, it was like some PCIe thing went bad, and then something above it, and then something above it, and then something above it, until it just didn't work. It was insane. It was so weird to have like a cascade failure of a motherboard before, but that was EVGA, and I thought they were rock solid until then, so. You always get proven wrong. Gold is a good PSU line as far as I know. Yeah, I don't have anything to say against them. I have a couple gold PSUs. The one on my gaming computer is one, although I've been getting, in the middle of the night, kernel malfunctions that reset the computer. I've realized that not all of those are Windows Update. Some of them are my computer going, and then dying. So, I don't know. I played Abiotic Factor way too late into the night last night, and I'm probably going to do it again tonight. I should stream it, but it's a really fun game. I've had way too much fun, and I was about to stop playing at like midnight, and then that dopamine hit cycled. The stupid dopamine hit of discovering the next piece of the tech tree. You get that it's a building game, right? So you're looking for that object that's going to unlock more recipes, and then you find it, and it's like, oh, but now I got to go back, and I got to do this and that and the other thing. It's, yeah. Elden Ring is my poison. Asus had a bad support, so I don't really like them either. And you call that cancel? It's not cancel culture. That's confidence in a brand. You've lost your confidence in a brand. That's not cancel culture. You're not canceling Asus. Asus will move on. We will all move on. Yeah. Don't let these modern don't let modern shit like that influence your framing of things. Asus screwed me over recently, not happy. I don't think there's a brand out there that you can find that isn't in some way tarnished by certain actions. I mean, you stick with these brands long enough, and they're all counting beans. They're all getting stuff to function as well as they can tolerate for as little money as possible. And that just leads to eventually something crapping out on you. And maybe you get bad customer service because, again, they're trying to function at the lowest level of acceptability. That's just how these things work. And statistically, if you continue to use the same brand over and over again, it's not like you're more likely to get a failure, but you will get a failure because it's just statistics. Yeah, I feel like they all have their whoops moment. It's just the general quality of the stuff. And EVGA used to have amazing customer service. I don't know if they still do. I can't speak to that. I bought a Bluetooth dongle. What are you dongling? I like that word. Bluetooth dongle from Asus. The whole thing fell apart last year. Not a good look for considering buying more expensive things. It's tough. The problem with capitalism. Well, it's just, you know, profit-driven companies. It's changing profits has to go up every year. EVGA went under? Did they went under? I don't listen. I'm appealing to the computer nerds. Yeah, this is a good song. This is DJ Shadow. If you're curious, DJ Shadow. This song's called You Played Me. It's off of maybe the latest? I think so. DJ Shadow decided to kind of do his own thing and make his own album, like make an album for himself. And it turned out really good, and it's really good stream intro music. I hate to put it that way because it doesn't sound like a compliment, but it really is. I had a 980 Ti by EVGA. I think current graphics card might be a 1080 FTW from EVGA. I think we might be on an EVGA right now. And the 1080 series has just been, it was the card that we needed at the time. The 1080, 2017, 2018, buy a graphics card and you're like, maybe I'll get a 1080 or a 10 whatever. The 10 series has been an absolute fucking survivor. It got us all the way through Bitcoin mining and the pandemic, and we're using it right now still. I have a 1060, 1080 Ti. Yeah, exactly. They're just, it's a tank. It's an amazing card. I'm so happy that I bought the one that I did. That was the best because that was just at the precipice of the graphic card shortage. I had to like hit refresh on something, and then the current card that I use, the 6900 XT in my gaming computer, I bought on the toilet because I got notification from a friend of mine who was monitoring this kind of thing, and I was pooping at the time, and I was like, oh no, and I hit order, and then something happened to the page, and I accidentally bought two and had to return one, and then my bank account like fucking wanted to punch me in the nuts. It was a whole thing. Yeah, the 980 and the 1080. My old 980, I believe, is, yeah, that card right there, EVGA 980, and there's still a PCIe header on it, which means I didn't put a water cooler on it, but that used to be that's this one right here. That used to be the stream computer card, but that got swapped out for the 1080. 1060's 5 years old. It's such a good card. But I don't. So what I meant to be saying is I don't follow computer stuff. I don't do that. I know computer stuff. I only drop in when I'm looking at upgrading, and I'm not looking at upgrading for a while. It's gonna be like another 4 years before I even consider thinking about an upgrade. We did all that computer stuff that I still have to upload to YouTube, where I went into nickel plating and we cooled the RAM with water and all that stuff. That's going strong. That computer's going to last for quite a while, and hopefully, thanks to water cooling, hopefully not destroyed by water cooling. I hope its life is elongated by water cooling because I keep everything at a more consistent temperature, and maybe that'll keep damage from happening. Although you run the risk, you're holding it over the flames because of one slip up and you get water all over everything and it blows up. So right now my power supply on that computer is a 750 watt power supply because I wanted to upgrade it, but I'm not going to be able to. It's too much project for me right now. We need to concentrate on this thing that we're building right now and burn the subs. I need to clear the plate a little bit for that. The CNC machine I'll bring out when we want to do something like physical, when we want to build stuff with our hands and see, you know, but there's going to be quite a bit of programming that we have to do for the modular synthesizer tester, and Burn the Subs, frankly, has been too neglected. We need to get back to that. So I don't have time to design a computer power supply. I would like to. I want to make a 1,000-watt power supply with the Vicor models that I've bought off of eBay for really cheap. They are military grade, so they'll work no matter what. That's not we're not building that to the lowest amount of profits or the highest amount of profits. That would be an incredible power supply, but time. Time. You know, I build a $300 power supply for my computer, which I did in 2011. 2013 is when the PCB was made. I did that in 2013, and I used that computer all the way up until 2018, 19, 20. Actually, this was 2022, because the power supply didn't work in the computer upgrade, didn't have enough watts, and so I put in a 750-watt just EVGA power supply. I went out to Micro Center and bought it at an emergency. The PS5 and Xbox One S use liquid gallium instead of thermal paste. Doesn't that stuff get bad? Yeah, it starts eating traces and components if it leaks out. You're going to upgrade your risk with water cooling. That's so crazy. Why would they use the liquid gallium? I mean, they wanted to have the maximum amount of thermal transfer because I guess in a console you're using a whole lot of the processor because, you know, you've got a fixed hardware that everybody has, so you can use all of those special features that the processors have in order to make gorgeous visuals out of everything that you're doing. And so it's like, well, this thing is it's molten, so we need something on it. How's the steering wheel holding up? It's good. Why are you on both? Coming at me from every angle. Can't get away from Kaggies. Oh, it's not down there. It's in the other room. Or is it? No, it's back there. There it is. Steering wheel's good. I haven't done anything with it. I know there's like 6 projects that we want to do with the steering wheel. I would like to just hook it up again and do like a chill driving game. I haven't found a title that quite tickles my fancy. All the titles that I've been exposed to for driving games over the recent months have been sort of one of these flash in the pan, hey streamer, look at this. So I kind of want to find like a chill driving game that I can play that's not necessarily my summer car again. I know I streamed a lot of it, and we had great times. We had such good times. I know, nothing really does beat it. You're right. You're correct. Oh, weird. That barely lines up. There's a 3D prints with this proto board. Pulls off by a bit. Well, we'll get to that when we start up. Yeah, as like not an immersive sim, well, a little bit of an immersive sim. As a simulator, my summer car does a really good job because of the subversiveness of it. What it does is by assembling the car bolt by bolt, you know everything about the car. You remember putting it together. You know all of the intricacies of this car, and you take it out for a drive and you hit a tree and everything falls off and you just despair. Just despair at all the time that you just lost. It does not put you in a $1 million supercar and let you bounce off of the rails in order to make a turn. Whoopsie doopsie, I made a little mistake. It puts you in a car that you put love, sweat, and tears into, in a game sense. And it has you, even just to go get groceries, drive part of the race course. So you're driving this rally course in order to get around town. And you learn your car. You learn how your car takes turns. You become one with the vehicle. And then some bullshit happens and it explodes and you die and you have to walk there from the church. It's such a perfect game. It really does encapsulate like just a little bit of like a comedy of how Finland stereotypes are, I suppose. And then it also kind of puts you into that reality and it gets you invested. And then eventually, when you're brave enough to do the rally, you know that course. You know it like the back roads of your hometown. So I love that. It's like a perfect game. Yeah, and then the train, and then you get hit by a train. It's just chef's kiss. It's just such a beautiful concept. Yeah. So I found out today that I'm allergic to peanuts. Lovely. Jeez, with my EpiPen, I shall be unstoppable. Allergic to peanuts, like, do you just avoid peanuts? I ate dill the other day, something with a lot of dill in it, and the dill seemed a little spicy, and I'm like, am I allergic to dill? Like, I've discovered that those late season tomatoes, or whatever it is, the out of season tomatoes, the mealy ones, that make your tongue swell up, because you're allergic to them. I'm allergic to them. Kind of incredible. Some people are like, yeah, I don't like mango, it's too spicy. That's like, wait, you're allergic to mango. It's such a phenomenon. People just assume, like, what is that whole thing? Humans are space orcs. It's like, I eat this thing and it fucking hurts, so I'll continue to eat it. I get itchy between my fingers. Oh, I hate that. I used to get that from water. The water here was like, or in my previous township, like when I was a kid, the water would get super hard, and I take nuclear fire showers, and so my skin would get like dry and I'd be allergic to it, and in between your fingers itches. It was the worst. What would happen because of hormones and stuff like that as a teenager, my skin would start peeling off, so I'd be able to do this, and like significant chunks of skin would fall off. I had to sleep with cotton gloves on, and I put this stuff called Cutimol, which smells like old people. It smells like old people. It's horrible. But Cutimol is like an Arctic Circle moisturizer. It's like the stuff they use so that they don't, like, their face doesn't explode as soon as they go outside in negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit weather. And so I put that in gloves and slept like a cartoon character with gloves on. And that fixed it, apart from, you know, growing up and just, you know, everything's fine. But that was a million years ago. That was before any of you existed. I'm so old. I'm going to get more seltzer water because I'm an old man. 0.1 is normal. I'm at 0.74, which is like top of the scale. Wait, scale of what? Oh, wait, throat swell scale? Is that a thing? What do you think the next innovation in insulin delivery systems will be? I hope there isn't one. And I'll explain that. I hope there isn't a next innovation in insulin delivery systems, because I want diabetes to just be cured. There was an article a little while ago about some kind of a hormone that would make you not diabetic anymore. Certain people, diabetes is one of these sort of blanket, like symptom-driven things where it's like, if we give you insulin, you're fine now. But what killed the beta cells in the pancreas, right? I would hope that generative medicine, where they look at your DNA and they go, oh, let's fix this. I hope that becomes a thing with diabetes. And I think China has done a couple trials about generative medicine re-diabetes. So if you have certain markers and you become part of the study, you can get cured. I hope that trickles down fast enough. I hope we get that, because I would love to just not have diabetes. Instead of being a political chip for whatever party going, we fixed it, finally. And there's all these stipulations about the $35 insulin, like you have to be a certain age. How do you get to be that age? How do you get to be that age? The marker in my blood for peanut reaction. Oh, I see. I never knew about that. The marker in my blood. Oh, I read that. I found a soda that's somewhere between seltzer water and real soda. Only 4 grams of sugar. Just like no sugar. Oh, $2 a can is not terrible. Yeah, I don't know about. You can get LaCroix, and then it's hint of lime. Memories of peach. Have you tried or owned the LTT screwdriver? No, I don't. That's as much as that supports Linus and what he does, and that's all fine. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's a revolutionary screwdriver. Flatulent Gonad would have an opinion on that, because I think he got sent one. I have not. I use the iFixit kit, which I think the smaller iFixit kit is enough to do 90% of the things that you're going to do. If this is your only screwdriver, if this is your only screwdriver and you're going to be doing a lot of home improvement stuff, get the larger kit, the $60 one. But if this isn't your only screwdriver and you're using this mostly for like tech stuff and like the stuff we do, this is really good. This is really, really good. I had the previous version of the kit and I decided to upgrade it. I got sent a screwdriver by a viewer, a screwdriver bit kit that was like from some Chinese company, and it didn't have standard whatever size these are hex bits. It had its own thing. And so obviously then you couldn't get out of their own ecosystem. I fucked it. Well, whatever. I think this is a good screwdriver kit. I think it's a nicely built thing. It's a little chunk of metal, works just fine. The LTT screwdriver is overpriced. I can adapt these to this. So like I can adapt them to whatever I need anywhere. I actually bought this thing. This thing, just this little collar, and I can, bada bing, there we go. Now I can get rid of Torx with the power of electricity. I think it's good. I wouldn't say go out and buy it because I'm not making any money off of that. For the simple fact that I get none of that. But if you're going to risk it for the biscuit, I would go with this one. The only one with the odd bit size of miniware. I don't remember. I don't remember it. It had a Chinese name, so I don't recall. I think it had Chinese, like the name was in Chinese characters, so I had no chance of actually reading it. You have two of the LTT screwdrivers. Damn. Yeah, I think LTT did a good job saying, let's make a screwdriver, because that's like, that is his audience. People who mess with computers a lot like a good screwdriver. It's coming out with his own mini driver kit. Huh. You mean like the electric one? I don't know about that. The electric drivers I've messed with. Well, this is actually the first one. This is the first one that I've ever had, and I put this on my wish list, and Mahalo bought it for me because Mahalo is just that generous. This one has its little gimmick where you press it and it vibrates, which is nice because I can stick it up my. Anyway, if I twist it to a side, then it'll proportionally move that amount. You can't see it spinning. It's hard to see it spinning. But if I decide to just twist it a little bit, it'll move very slowly, which is nice. No, he didn't. Huh? Oh, that was in response to something else. Great for PC building. The mechanism is just great, and so are the magnets, but it's not like it's insanely better than other solutions. And it's a lot more expensive, from what I understand, than other solutions, too. But to each their own, you're supporting a YouTube channel if you buy it, so that's nice. This thing is awesome for the sole purpose of taking apart your modular synthesizer rack. I can put the hex bit in it, and I can just pop all the screws out, and then everything falls through. It's basically an iFixit kit, yeah, but with a custom piece of hardware. I don't know, you can't do much better than the Tamiya one, though. The Tamiya one, that looks like it's basically designed after a pistol. The only thing that would round it out is if you put batteries in it from below and had to rack the slide. This thing is ridiculous. Don't buy this. It's not that good. Maybe if you're in like an apartment and you want to be quiet, but even then, having a normal tool is probably better. This thing is so weird. The battery door right there, and it's basically got a little Tamiya motor inside of it, and it makes a whole lot of noise and does a lot of gearing in order to make this thing spin. Looks like Noisy Cricket. No, this is like a Walther. P something or other. They should make you rack the slide. It's a lost opportunity. Is that an RC car thingy? This is sent in, and I think this is another Mahalo, but this it basically comes like a model kit, and it's exactly like one. Like you have to break it off of the little plastic thingies, and then assemble it. And it's got the same motor as the Tamiya little kits. Both of these are sent in. They're very cute, but they're not all that useful. It was kind of fun to put together. It wasn't very challenging to put together. It was just like a couple parts that went together, and then you have this gun-shaped drill that you can drill into your little plastic cars with. It's not a serious tool, but it's fun. I keep trying to rack the slide, and I just can't. Poppy prebiotic sugar, or soda. Very low sugar soda. Doesn't taste like seltzer water with a fart of flavor like LaCroix. It's made with stevia, but without that funky taste stevia can cause. Yeah, that's the thing about like stevia and your Splendas and stuff like that, is like if you're baking with them, they don't quite act like sugar. They're not quite like sugar. You cut it with a little bit of real sugar in order to get, and you got to get the ratio right, which is very difficult to do. Once you get that ratio right, then you start having things that taste less weird. They have a little bit of carbs in them because you can't get around that with sugar, but they still have the texture, and baking is rough. Baking is rough, especially trying to go low carb. Yeah, it was the flavor that it's supposed to be was described to it over the phone. $130 for that? Wow. I don't really know. I think that auto screwdriver is pretty expensive for what it is. The DeWalt one, although the prices are becoming more reasonable. But when I was a teenager, I ate 20 Sucrets to get high off of the DMT. That was an option? What? Huh? That sounds awful. I don't think your kidneys are too happy with you now. That's a thing? What? The only liqueur I liked was grapefruit. I don't think I'm allowed to eat grapefruit because of medications. I think one of my medications is like, don't eat grapefruit. No, I'm not on any SSRIs. Is that what that is? No, but that's metabolism. I don't know. I don't recommend it. I figure that's a very safe thing to say after saying, I once ate 50 of something I wasn't supposed to because it had a little bit of, like, a very hard drug in it. Next day shipping. Nice. Nice, nice. Boop, boop, boop. This one's a little weird. What else do we have? I only got two songs left in the album. Skip that. This is, DJ Shadow's album Action Adventure. $40 just to see how it goes. Listen, with that stuff, whatever that, I believe that sucrose stuff, they tested it on mice, and you're going to think this is the same story that everybody always tells, right? They're just going to think, yeah, they gave a whole bunch to mice, and they got, like, they got cancer. That's what I always hear. Oh, you're using sweetener? Did you know that gives mice cancer? Well, it doesn't give people cancer. And looking further into the study, it turns out what they found was pre-cancerous cells in mice that were fed basically like their body weight in artificial sweeteners. And the thing is, there's some controversy around those results because it's thought that the tubes that they used to force feed the mice copious amounts of sweetener may have caused that effect in sort of a different study, I guess. But that, I forget when I read up on that. That was like 2003. I got so sick of hearing that. Every time it's reached for the sweetener, somebody would tell me that little anecdote. And it's like, no. What's my favorite project I've done on this channel? That's tough. I can't choose between them. So far, the slam dunk was the Tom Thinks button, because that involved another streamer and helping somebody out. My other one, I don't know, I quite like this rack blocking thing that I put LEDs behind because I was able to make a dual color print that has some nice visuals behind it. Although it's doing RGB, which I loathe. That's all I can really do to show it off. And the patterning on that is really cool. The camera isn't configured for it right now, but the patterning on it is really cool because I did sort of a zigzag of LEDs and I wired them up in rows that are juxtaposed. So as this thing cycles through colors, it goes in two directions and those sort of meld and separate as they go through. Mahalo mentioned you earlier about the drill and some other stuff. Mahalo, thank you for subbing for 59 months. I really appreciate the continued support of the show. I miss the fart box. As soon as I can figure out MQTT, the fart box is back. Maybe not that soon, but I need to figure out a singular front end for the entire shop to configure to Twitch on Node-RED. And in order to do that, in order to get those things running again, I need MQTT. The MQTT broker makes everything possible in here. And then I can get the ESP8266 to speak MQTT with all of its previous software. The Tamiya drill, yeah, the Tamiya like router is right there, but the Tamiya drill I was talking about earlier, this thing, it's cute, but it's I like we were talking about the iFixit screwdriver kit, and I was talking about these things, and I'm like, don't go get this unless it's just for a joke or like your nephew wants a project for the day. Yeah, the other one is a router. It just comes with a different bit. This comes with one drill bit, but like, I don't know. It's a Walther. Can't rack the slide, and honestly, they missed an opportunity to have the batteries go in from the bottom, so you could do this, and then rack. Discipline. The Tamiya drill is actually great for what it's made for. It's made for drilling into little plastic models, yeah. I don't know what the hell that is, and I don't trust it. I don't know Chatterjee. I want it to run on the file server, because the file server is doing dick all during the day, and I need it to have more function here, and it also already has Node-RED in it. Spring-loaded collet that you rack will be attached to this. The slow speed makes it great since it won't melt the plastic. Yeah, I guess it has its purposes. Actually, what I did is the other thing that Mahalo sent in, this beauty right here, this thing is great. It's great for getting screws out of a modular synthesizer rack, because you have a billion screws to get out. But what I got for it was a collet. And so now I have that slow speed, because this thing has multiple speeds. Depending on how much you twist it and the direction. What does the battery look like? It's one of these. So this one, you can actually do that. There's one that's at a more of a right angle, so it'd probably feel a little bit more satisfying. So it's one of these guys. But yeah, no, like being able to do the slow speeds and actually getting just like a collet for it, a little, whatever it's called, thingy-majig that I can hold bits. You know, I can do chamfering and plastic on it without blowing up the plastic. Pretty cool. I thought there was a bit more standardization. Maybe not in this size, but in the larger, the 20-volt batteries. Aren't those a little bit more standard? I'm not sure. I really don't know. They are. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, the brands are they just do whatever they want. So, you know, it's not like the design teams are obligated to coordinate with each other in specifications. All 18 volts, which this one is not 18. This is 8. This one is 8. And the other ones that I have are 20. It's likely that you're both right. It's likely that you're both right. It's a mess. It's a dangerous world out there. Ow. The problem is the battery door is right here, and so that's sharper than everything else. Scraped my finger across this thing. Owie. Locked and loaded, ready for projects. How am I going to organize myself today? Well, I mean, it's been a long intro, so let's get the music out of here. You guys on YouTube can't hear it. Yoink. Pause. Setup. Start soon. Happy Thursday, everybody. The week's almost over. We still got a lot of work to do. I haven't been working on the modular synthesizer thing in the background. I did a little bit of work, but I took yesterday as just like a mental break and decided to start playing Abiotic Factor. And then suddenly it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and my glucose sensor had expired an hour ago. So I had to then take 2 hours in order to get it to calibrate again. It's not an active process. I just put a new one in, and then I went to bed, and then it started up while I was asleep. But yeah, I'm a little bit out of things. Actually, no, I'm not out of it. I actually feel fine, which is a problem because that I should not feel fine after that. These building games, these construction games where you just need that, bro, just one more thing, bro, just one more, just organize the crates, bro, just one more thing, bro. And then you get, oh, I got a new component, and so I unlocked a bunch of recipes, bro. Just look at these new recipes, bro, just one more thing. And then like your brain is like, please, dopamine, just a little bit. It's horrible. It's a really fun game. So, yeah, I'm out of sorts today, but I did get all the 3D printing done, for better or for worse. Some of them are not that good. I'm not talking about Satisfactory, I'm talking about Abiotic Factor. I'm sure Satisfactory plays the same way because I've done the same exact thing. But yeah, so I got the 3D prints done. They're not amazing, but they are what they are. They're actually parts that we can put into this thing. So we can first start by just like building some of the things together. I don't have currently the ammeters that we bought on Tuesday. Should have gotten faster shipping. I should have gotten those on Wednesday, but unfortunately they're going to get here at the end of the day today. So there may be some incredible barking in the near future, and then I will have them, but I think that's around the time when we will be packing it up. I don't want to stream for too long today because things have been tumultuous. Is that the right word? I'm going to look that up. Hold on. I can't spell it. Making loud, confused noises, uproarious. That's just my stream. Excited, confused, disorderly. Disorderly would be the best. Things are crazy here. I'll just put it that way. The medical stuff that I've been talking about, sort of the person who was out there last has passed, and now it's all of the post stuff, and I'm on support crew, so things are gonna kind of be weird, and hopefully we'll have a stream Friday, unless I need to kind of hold down the fort here, or if I need to get people places. So there's just all kinds of stuff going on, and unfortunately I'm the one who looks like they don't have a job, even though this is my job and I like to treat it as that. It's still, you know, I need to help out where I can. So we'll see what happens with tomorrow's stream. Hopefully we have one. I think we will. Right now I'm taking care of the dog who's asleep upstairs at the door, getting ready to bark her head off when a package gets delivered. So that's where we are right now with things. We're working on this modular synthesizer testing module because it is the pillar on which an entire ecosystem of projects is going to use as a foundation, is going to lean. You don't lean on, don't you knock over pillars if you lean, you push them over? So anyway, we need to get this thing done, and unfortunately I've taken the liberties of quite a bit of complexity here. In order to make a modular synthesizer testing module, you need a bunch of different signals, a bunch of different things that go blip, bloop, bleep, and a bunch of different ins and outs. Hey, what's up, Blue? And Esports, and Wayne. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff to put together, and I have an entire UI to put together too. We might skimp on the UI for now. I might get the screen working and have it display stuff, but it might not be as configurable as we want it to. What I want to do is get hardware into a position where we can then concentrate on software, because the whole UI is a lot of stuff to put together. I left a lot of this stuff configurable, but I mean, you know, it might be that we need to move on just so that I can keep the projects fresh here and not, I mean, we've done a lot of varied stuff with this project, but sounds good, says Blue AU with a 12-month subscription. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know. This is liable to be a very cool piece of device, just to be able to go through and do the menu stuff and then have interactions from the buttons or have test setups and stuff like that. That's going to be really powerful. It's going to be a very cool module. So we're going to continue to work on it. I want to have the power supply like done very soon. We'll see like if by the end of the week we can have the power supply done. I'm not sure, with all the current meters on it, and then we can fully start to build all the hardware for this thing. So I'm going to need an op amp per LED. I'm going to need all of these guys to go into a port expander. I'm going to need the Maxim chips attached to these IOs. Does anything like this module exist? I'm sure in industry that it does, and I think the price is probably going to blow our socks off, because we've been basing this thing on a mutable instruments design. Where is that window? I've got so many windows open. That's YouTube. That's this one. This doesn't have the thing on it. These are the Maxim chips. I may have closed it. So there is a module tester that exists, and we were basing it, the functionality, or initially the 6 channels, on the mutable instruments module testing module. Now we could go up to 8 channels, but I think that's just going to be a little excessive for our purposes. So a lot of the design is actually from this module, and there's software and everything for it, but Mutable's using a different IC for this and a different overall design. So we've taken the idea of this module and we've run with it in our own direction. So I mean, like, yeah, I could build this, but we've got kind of a cooler thing with what we're doing. I mean, modular or Eurorack module tester. This is something you do when you think about a project. You go, well, has anybody done this before? And you look it up. It's a very vital step that a lot of people don't do. $213. It has a basic LCD that kind of would look kind of dumb. And then it's got fixed IO that does specific things. And then you've got gate in, blah, 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 blah. I guess those are mutes and all that stuff. I mean, that would be something that I probably should have bought for $200. I think that building a device is good content, though. Open source hardware. PSI power has no polarity on the power header. Who's building this? Michigan Synthworks. Pretty cool. So that would be supporting an American company. What pasta shape tastes best? The kind in my stomach. The kind in my belly. What is this one? Synthrotech. Aren't we not supposed to be getting synth? I forget which one we're not supposed to be getting. I think it is Synthrotech that we're not supposed to. $20. DIY module tester. It looks exactly like the mutable instruments setup, but it's being sold by SynthCube with their logo on the PCB, because these have been opened up to the public as completely open source, like MIT license, I believe. Although it would be nice of them to give credit. From 49 to 239. Oh, there we go. So yeah, I mean, I could buy something. CC by SA license. SynthCube, PCB bundle. Wow. Make money off of that? Interesting. So yeah, it's a thing that exists. It's a thing that exists, and there are price tags on them. And you're generally spending, probably if you save up $300, you could probably get something that will test other modules specifically. I would rather make it myself because there's just a lot of cool stuff that we can do, and we're learning about stuff that we can do. Like, for instance, the Teensy 4 audio tools are so very powerful. they kind of exist, but not really. No, they fully exist. They fully exist. They're just a little bit pricey. Considering what I'm putting into this thing, the screen is like $100 and something if I were to buy it new. So, I mean, you know, the price tag isn't that unreasonable. It's just I have a lot of these parts. And we can put them all together in order to make this thing. So yeah, it's, you know, whenever you do something like this, it's like, why are you doing this? Why would a logical person put together such a complicated dinosaur pasta? Okay, yeah, maybe you win. That might be a winning comment right there. That is probably the best pasta. Whatever pasta has a lot of cheesy roux all over it. Okay, so why are we doing this? Why would you do this? Why would a sane person do this kind of thing? And the reason is I want experience doing things. You know, I want to actually do stuff. No, not just to suffer. Just to suffer. We do it because it builds us up in terms of being able to put stuff together. I'm learning stuff about AutoCAD and the positioning of jacks on perforated prototyping board, and I'm learning how to utilize the screen better, and I'm learning how to program a Teensy 4 to do a buttload of stuff, which is kind of what it was invented for buttloads. So we're able to output 6 channels. We could output 8 channels. If I want to build a super serious sequencer, I could have 8 channels of sequenced stuff coming out of it if I use one of these, not totally expensive, but they're brutally fast Teensy 4.0s. And I know people have been turned off to the Teensy 4.0 because it's one person can say, no more Teensy 4, and just shut down the entire market on them. But Paul Stoffergen's not necessarily in that business. If he just like, and then dies, like, yeah, it'd be kind of tough. Somebody would have to take up the mantle. But for now, I really like the Teensy because it is a brutally fast microcontroller for a reasonable price, and it does everything, and he's got all these tools that you can use with it. So I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so we've been designing this stuff in CAD. We've been designing everything in Fusion 360. We have a scheme for feet and a power supply board. And then we have a panel for ammeters and voltmeters. And then we have a front panel with I/O on it. Now there's going to be a lot of, I'm probably going to have to work a bunch of chips in here. Like 3 maybe, dual op amps, and then somehow an MCP 6004, and then somehow mounts for a whole nother perforated prototyping board. Because we're going to build this with perforated prototyping board. I am not going to jump the gun like I am always tempted to do and design like an actual designed circuit board for it. That would be all well and fun, but I think we should do some like real prototyping and soldering and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe Just to Suffer. That's starting to look more and more like Just to Suffer, because I could lay out all the circuit components and get all of the stuff from the schematic together. But at the same time, we're also learning like what elements need to go into this thing. It's one of the things where I'm like, oh, what happens if I have like an external signal applied to the front of an op amp? What happens? What occurs in that case? Like, does this op amp would fight to keep this, like, let's say I set this over here so that this is like, well, ground. And then this is at, on the other side, 0 volts. But then we have an external signal coming in of like +5. And so we want to drive that line to +5 so that over here we see +5 volts. And then that gets translated down to whatever it is. That would be 0 volts, actually. Right? So all that stuff is occurring on this line, but we already have this op amp connected to it. What happens when 5 volts comes in? This thing is going to try to course correct. What's it going to do? So that's something that I just decided, like, just recently. I was like, wait, I don't know what's going to happen. I could test what's going to happen, or I could put in something that just removes that whole thing from the circuit. And since I worked on a research project that involved switching analog lines around in order to measure stuff, I happen to have a bunch of Max 333s sitting in a box. And so I only need 6. We could do 8, but I'm going to do 6. The thing about 6 channels is it also helps us calibrate. So I have 2 extra channels on the Maxim Mux, the one that's going to switch the input. And so what I can do is I can put voltage level. I can put fixed voltage levels on 2 of the channels. And so I have 2 calibration channels that I can flip to. If you just straight up buy something, you're not going to learn anything. Yeah, but if I straight up, the argument against that is if I bought something, then we would have been much further along with Dave's synthesizer and all the other synthesizers here. But then, can I look myself in the mirror at the end of the day? Like, yeah, I create circuits on Twitch. You bought that. You didn't create that. And it's like, ooh, that's the sting. Because all the modular synthesizer stuff is built by me. And I mean from like a fundamental level. Nothing is just dropped on me. I haven't just bought something for $300. Everything is probably worth that much, but I haven't spent that much on any of it. This is somebody else's that we're fixing. So can I look myself in the mirror at the end of the day and call myself one of the weirder, crazier, more smarterlier channels on Twitch if I haven't built my own modular synthesizer testing module? And as everything is based on mutable instruments, everybody else is copying and stealing their work. I am loosely starting off at that jumping point and then going completely insane doing everything else sort of my way and sort of a hybrid of everybody else's way. So we're using the latest mutable instrument circuits because this is a very early mutable instrument project. We're using the latest circuits and I'm mixing and matching them until we get sort of a hodgepodge of all of these designs. And I can't explain that to every single person coming in. So if the comments seem like they're a little bit acerbic, like if they're trying to like needle me into getting a reaction, it's just what it is. That's Twitch, you know. You're not going to learn anything if you just buy something. So yes, we are learning how to put this stuff together and sort of make it functional. I think the Maxim Muxes are a bit of a shortcut. I probably should have used an audio codec, but these parts are also things that I have on hand from other projects. And so we're learning about I2S and how amazing it is to use. Circuit grognard. What is, am I allowed to say that? What is grognard? I'm Googling it because I don't know the word. What exactly is a grognard? Discuss. RRPG. RRPG. French for old soldier. It's come to mean people like myself who hold on to the old ways. That's not what I'm doing. Hey! We're doing digital stuff. We're not doing analog stuff. This is digital stuff. I mean, my indicator LEDs are going to be analog just because that saves me a lot of time. I could actually make these like work digitally. That would be a lot of programming work, and then I could have them like do a little dance when it boots up, but we're not doing that. Yeah, we'll learn how the complexity of putting multiple systems together. As somebody who's trained in systems engineering, this is kind of like a little bit tickling that itch because I'm buying system stuff and putting it all together. The only thing I got was a power supply and 3 kits that showed how synths work. Now I build my own. That's pretty badass, actually. That's awesome. Probably breadboarded everything in order to tinker with the circuit capabilities for sound. The only problem is we can't breadboard the entire width and breadth of the project. The breadboard is currently taken up with 6 output channels and six amplifiers, putting them to proper modular voltage, and then a mux bringing it out to 1, I guess, de-amplification channel, and then the audio input, I2S audio input for 2 channels. So we have 2 inputs. We have anything going out of any of the outputs, because these will do at DC levels. This thing won't. So we actually have to reroute part of that to the microcontroller directly so that it can measure it. And what we'll be able to do is the mux can switch to a fixed voltage, look at that voltage and say, this is that voltage, output the voltage from a channel, send it back in, and make sure that it's within spec and say, hey, that's this voltage. More modern interpretation is someone who groans and complains about someone doing something that isn't the one true way. As awful as it sounds, there are many ways to skin a cat. But to the amateur, there may look like there are many ways, to the expert, few. building up on stuff like this and building circuits like this gives us that perspective of things that have worked for us versus things that have not. So yeah, unfortunately in industry, constantly failing at stuff is a luxury, but in hobby, which is what we're doing, we can set ourselves up to fail. And that's what we do. Actually, no, this has been a rousing success, aside from the fact that I printed 12 front panels until I got the dimensions right. Now, if we ever do breadboarding with Donkey Kong connectors, I will know how to position these things so that they are on the 0.1 inch space grid. The trick is to have these little tabs overlap because they actually bend in when you put them onto 0.1. These aren't 0.1 inch spaced. What I was getting at is the engineers who create these synthesizer devices, they use breadboarding to figure out what they can do with ICs, make solutions that they want to create. Yeah, and that's where you get the variation between designs. You can look at an op-amp circuit, say this is how you design an op-amp circuit in order to perform this task, and then you breadboard it, you see how it performs, and you go, wait, I don't like something here, let's tweak this, and this is a little bit different than that. If you're copying somebody else's homework, all your circuits are going to look exactly like another design. And I used to work in this. I used to work in this for 10 years. I reverse engineered IEDs, and they were all getting their designs from the same spots. And so the slight variations in design are where your bread is buttered. So you can tell if somebody has been copying somebody else's design. But knowing how this works, like I've seen some weird stuff from people who basically thought they knew how electronics worked and put something together that they thought would work like electronics, and it didn't. I've seen weird shit. The sparkling of the C-beams over Titan. Time to die. All right, let's get this thing off of here and let's start putting bolts in. I bought 250,000 Maker Beam bolts. The Maker Beam bolts are special because this is an aluminum extrusion. This thing has a channel. It's got this big stinky channel in it. And the big stinky channel, you can see it here. It's way too close to the camera. There you go. A big stinky channel that this squared-headed, not originally square-headed, it was probably ground, but it was ground into a square. And what that does is that butts up against this extrusion channel and allows the screw to not twist. And so without the twist, it will then, you know, you can put a bolt on the top of it, and the bolts bolt on brackets. And that gives you this kind of weird, brutal look to all the Maker Beam stuff. I like my pretty Maker Beam. I put corner cubes on the corners a lot of the time. Since this is a piece of test equipment, we are going to keep it raw and use brackets. So it's going to be a rough look to the whole thing. Yeah, we'll try to make it as nice as we can, but for the most part, this is just going to be kind of a rough look. What the hell, dude? If you're falling down because of your glucose levels, man, like, bro, like, evaluate. Fix the problem. That sucks. That's pretty dangerous. I gotta admit, that's pretty dangerous. Okay, so we're gonna put a couple bolts in here, and that will allow me to... Oh yeah, and I can put the bolts on here too. Oh, that was nice. I got a nice little access window from this. And then we're gonna start putting everything down to where it belongs, and then I'll take this board out and we can start considering what we're gonna do with the power supply. The ammeters haven't come in the mail yet. So in order to connect the power supply to the ammeters, I don't know what I'm gonna do. In addition to that, I was sitting at my computer, my mind a complete blank. And then I went, oh, wait a minute, I forgot the MIDI input. Oh no, because I was gonna have MIDI come in from the back of the device, right? And I bought these little panel mount mini sockets. I bought Philly accent. Anyway, I don't know what to do with this now. Is side input okay, or do I need a back panel? I might need a back panel. I might need to do a back panel, in which case the barrel plug sockets aren't quite the right thing. The barrel, where did it go? I had one. I had it. It was right here. It was right here. There it is. These guys. I got little through-hole barrel plugs. I don't know if the positioning of this board is going to allow me to get this all the way up to the edge. I could do an inset thing. I know I love MIDI. I love MIDI. MIDI's so good. It's so old and shitty. I love it. But yeah, so these plugs might not work. I would have been better with a panel mount one, and then I'll have to find a switch. I think I have a switch around here somewhere for on off. I just want a switch in the back corner, and then a MIDI, a barrel plug, and then a MIDI plug. I don't know if that could be like its own little structure. I could put a cross beam on it maybe and hold that there, although I think I'm running out of this size. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I got to figure that one out. We got to think about that. We got to do a little bit of thinking. Under a nightstand. Do you not feel lows? Can you get some kind of like help getting like a CGM or something that you're going to pay attention to? I know when you get hypoglycemic, you want to like refuse care because you're in the middle of like a dream and everybody's reaching out for you and trying to shove stuff in your mouth. And it's like, no, I will not do that. And they're like, oh, look, another combative diabetic that doesn't want to get treated for a low. But it's like, dude, I was out of it. My brain wasn't functioning on all cylinders. All right, yeah, don't skimp on that work. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate you being here. The YouTube views are great. Love y'all. All y'all. In 2024, I would switch from 5-pin DIN to 3.5 millimeter for MIDI, like so many MIDI instruments today. That's a thing, isn't it, huh? I wish they could agree on the damn pinout. Well, that's the problem. Because I was looking at MIDI keyboards and I wanted to get something that was like small and cute, something I could just noodle around with. I took piano lessons as a kid and I just kind of want to noodle around with one. And that's probably what'll happen when I get this thing running is I'll be able to do 1 volt per octave coming out of a MIDI keyboard and just use that to go blah, 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 and then I know that something works and I could measure the tone. But I was looking around at the keyboards and I'm like, none of these have like a MIDI socket. None of them have that. And I guess they've gone to like a headphone thing, but I don't know what the pinout is. And if there's no consistency, how do we deal with that? I guess maybe we use, it's 3 pins, but one is a ground, so you could put that into like a mux. I don't know. I don't know. All right, so we got 4 bolts on the top layer, and then 2 on the bottom for the feet. So these go in. These are going to be difficult to get back in, so I'm actually going to do... Oh yeah, and then I need 2 on the tops here, because that's what's going to hold in our front panel. So 1. Where's another one? One, 2. Okay, so those are there. Let me get these things in. The most difficult thing to do is when you loosen these up, you can just slide them out, but then these will spin in that loose mount. So sliding them back in is extremely difficult. So it's better to just disassemble and cut your losses. Korg and Akai pinout and Arturia pinout. I guess you could wire up a switch on the back that would do that. I don't know. That seems like a lot, though. That seems like there should be a standardization. I can't believe they went to like a headphone jack for MIDI. I guess it makes some sense. The DIN plug is a little bit antiquated. It's not bad, though. I don't mind it. Well, you got to identify whatever it is that's causing lows like that, because that's a need for change, is what that is. That's such a serious situation that you got to evaluate. Galvanize. No, wait, that's the wrong thing. There we go. Put that down on the bottom, and then get these on there. DIN plug only has 3 pins used. Yeah, that's the thing. They were always like, these other pins are here for expansion. And I'm like, expansion when? When are you expanding? And they never do. That's the same thing with like the DB25 connector. They use like 4 or 5 plugs on it, and then everything else is quote unquote there for expansion. One is ground, another is optocoupler LED source, and another is LED sync. So it's the same thing as MIDI. It's just on a different plug, a more accessible plug, a less expensive plug. Do you have the ability to get a CGM, if not just until you settle on a treatment plan? Because if the lows are getting that dangerous, it might be a safety thing to use it for a couple weeks and see what's happening in real time. I'm gonna need way more bolts than this. We're gonna need them on all 4 of these. So I'm gonna have to get a lot of this stuff out of there in order to slide on a couple fasteners. Let's see. We have enough for the front panel and the back panel. This one gets 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. How can I get this one out of there? I guess I'll just do it like this. These are going to be the most annoying ones. RS-232 actually has a bunch of older depreciated signals on it that are for handshaking and also relics of landline telephone things. There's a ring indicator. That's pretty funny. Hold on, my ring indicator pin is high. Yeah, it makes for a very confusing time for the rest of us because we get there late in the party and everybody's already given up on like all the different types of like pins. They're like, we just need TX and RX. But then we're like, wait, what's like these 5 handshake pins? What do those do? All right, so as far as back panel, we don't know anything about it yet. We do know that we need feet, and we do know that we need 2 in order to hold up that power supply that we did. So I need 2 on either side of this. MakerBeam is not very efficient with the bolts that it uses. There's quite a few bolts that are necessary for MakerBeam. Two there, and then 2 on the other side. The way that I designed the feet, unfortunately, makes it so that they use every single bar on the base. But I guess it'll also work as kind of like a bracket to hold hold them all together. Not that we necessarily need that, but it's there. You know what? I didn't realize we measured the bolt sticking out from... Well, actually, no, that's still valid. We measured it from the plate to the tip, not from the MakerBeam to the tip. So I don't know what that's going to do. Our thing is going to be thicker, though, so hopefully... Well, the bolt will stick out the same amount. It'll actually stick out a little bit more than we had anticipated. I think I gave it enough wiggle room, though. Wiggle room. I think. Ow! Something sharp. Those are the through hole. This is why I hate through hole. It's always sharp. You'd have triple pole position. A 3-pole switch to make switchable 3.5 MIDI socket for the standards. They make like rotary encoders that have multiple, like you need a DP, a dual DP. You need DP. You need a dual rotary. It would be more of an industrial part to have like a selector switch on the back. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know if I have any hardware like that, but I do have a couple rotary encoders. They're totally different from one another though. The other thing you could do is have a rotary encoder that goes to a mux. And again, me with the muxes, apparently. I'm just inundated with muxes, so I use them in everything. But if you had a, like a dual mux that has 4 ports on it, you could have your different outputs, I guess, configure themselves, I think. DIN 5 MIDI cables are 2 pins for through device signal, 2 plus minus, 2 for host, plus minus, and shield. Huh. Is through ever implemented? A lot of things have through. Well, with the old DIN MIDI, I don't know. So now I need bolts for this, and this is where I'm like gonna start fishing into bins. Fishing in bins requires tweezers for that. I bought a set of bolts, so they're in here. I just need to find them. Actually, we're not there yet, are we? Not yet. I'm still inserting bolts into the various slots that they need to be in. Yeah, the problem is we never, when we were kids, we didn't know that MIDI was daisy chained. Like your typical MIDI setup would be this thing, then this thing, then this thing, and we thought we needed like specific addresses for everything, and everything was like totally fixed. And so what we ended up buying was this $400 MIDI hub that had like 8 outputs on it. And like we could have DIY'd something, we could have, it was just, we just didn't know. We did not know. We didn't know. We didn't listen. Let's see, 2 verticals, 2 for the power supply, 2 for the front panel, 2 for feet, 2 for feet. I need 2. How do I get this out? This one is like, that one's in there. This one is like totally inaccessible. If I get this whole bracket off, then I can get to this one. You can have some really crazy branching paths with MIDI. It's crazy. Yeah, because you have an in-out and a through, and you have banks and you have channels. Which is why the fire cannon existed on MIDI channel 0. It was just 0, that was it. And I would still get people coming to me constantly, your shit broke. The thing you built broke. It broke. Like, are you on the right MIDI channel? Your thing broke. And it's like, oh, okay. So I'd walk all the way out, you know, put some pants on, go all the way out to where my device was, and it turns out they were on channel 1. And I'm like, I asked you to check what channel you were on. What octave are you on? The first octave? Yes. Look at how everything works. And I'd make eye contact and start bloofing the fire out. It was always your thing broke, your software broke. You broke this, it doesn't work. And it's like, I know what I did. I know what I did works. Where did the bolt go that I just took out? I took a bolt out, now it's gone. There it is. It was under stuff. We got to make some decisions about the power supply, and I want to be able to see what current the module under testing draws. 1 or 2 maybe. So maybe I have the ammeters right before the 2 available power plugs, and then I have a power plug of my own that goes up to this device. I don't know if I want to take all of the powers all the way up to this, though. Not sure. Like if I want to, instead of like a gate or CV on the connector, maybe I want to have that be, well, no, I don't need to do that. Yeah, never mind. We don't need to do that. Maybe I want MIDI to come up through there. I don't know. Although if we have digital reading of the pins, of all of the pins, no, we only have digital. So the digital and analog reading can only happen on 2 pins, both digital and analog. I don't have all 6 available for digital reading, so I can't like make MIDI input one of the things. Actually, that would be stereo anyway, so that wouldn't work. Used to have an old keyboard and a sound module that I tie together. You run the second module out to the keyboards through, you run the keyboard out to the MIDI cards in, the MIDI cards out to the sound module in. I don't understand that without a diagram. It's just one of those things. Yeah, some MIDI setups were crazy. I mean, like all the diagrams in the books were like, you run like a MIDI keyboard that runs to another MIDI keyboard that runs to another MIDI keyboard, and then you can have a branching path go down and out to another row of keyboards, and you would assign them banks and channels. So channel 1 would be one like row, and the bank channel 2. It was nuts. But apparently that all worked out without buying a $400 piece of equipment. We were dumb. We were very dumb to spend all that money, and the guy at Sam Ash was just ready to take it. He's like, oh yeah, you want this thing? Cool, here you go. Bye. It's like, wait, this is a useless product. This would only be useful if you had like Chemical Brothers levels of equipment. I wonder what would happen if you accidentally like looped your MIDI, if you had a big crazy MIDI setup with a bunch of in-out throughs, all in use, all chooching away. See here, there's that AV influence that I was talking about not wanting to have, but everything's churning signals around, and suddenly you connect it in a loop, and it gains consciousness. This is a lot of fasteners to be putting into this thing, but we can mount all of the 3D print stuff now. Of course, getting the tool to tighten them is going to be kind of a challenge, but we'll get there. We'll get there. The only reason I want this to have MIDI is so that I can use the little keyboard that I bought. And I got the, whatever it is, that brightening stuff for plastic. So I'm going to have to lay the keys out. They're currently in the utility sink in the other part of the basement because the hydrogen peroxide was leaking from that bag. I trusted it to one plastic bag, which is a mistake. So what I'm going to do, I don't know when, maybe Saturday or something like that, I'll take a big tray and I'll lay the keys out so that they all get exposed to sunlight, and I'll spray it with the gloop, whatever that stuff is, the gel whitening stuff. Retro Bright, there we go. Yeah, I bought the thing of Retro Bright. I don't have much to Retro Bright. I gotta look around the shop and see if anything looks like it's kind of busted. Tighten, 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 tighten. Okay, we have all of our bolts. Let's put the legs on. Let's give it legs. Legs, eggs? So these are basically going to go to both of the fasteners here. And then I can adjust that a little bit if I really want to, but I'll just have it at a 45-degree angle. And then supposedly, let me get this out of the way. I removed the module from this because I don't want that VFD to deal with too much mechanical whatever, you know, strife, because it'll end up getting hurt. I do have two of them. Ooh, look at how perfect that is. It's beautiful. My PSR 530 implements neither through pins or a through socket. Instead, retransmission is configured by software. Is that like over like a network kind of thing? Like how do you... Yeah. All things considered, I should probably have put like an Ethernet plug on the back of this thing and just had it communicate over the network like a freaking ESP. I could have put an ESP in here as a separate MIDI broker that would run from like a computer, but I'm not gonna do that. Oh, look at that! That worked out perfectly. Beautiful. Well, I mean, we designed it a particular way, and my 3D printer has gotten good at this kind of stuff. So yeah. That works out pretty nicely, and it makes a nice big flat foot for this thing to sit on. I can put a silicone rubber pad on it. I could probably try to cut something out and then just place that down on it so that this thing won't like scooch around the desk. I think we'll leave it in scooch around mode for now, though. Always nice. It's always just kind of pleasant when a design goes together like that. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, so let's get the rest of these in. Beautiful. And the screws aren't sticking out too much. They are almost flush, which is what I wanted. Almost flesh. Ew. I mean, it is a lot for just a foot. For a foot, having two individual maker beam bolts it's much. It's a lot for that. Something that shouldn't have anything. Like, I mean, if I had 4 of these posts sticking straight down, I could do just one bolt through the middle of just like a little nub, a little Rolo candy, if you will. 2 more bolts. Man, Rolos are good. I remember weird European candy. I don't eat candy. It's just a foible of being diabetic, is like, if I eat candy, I have to deal with how I'm going to feel afterwards. So I don't eat dessert. I don't eat candy. Every now and then I do. I love it. I love it. But I just don't want to deal with whatever the hell happens afterwards. I used to get a lot of smoothies as a teenager. Like, not that, like the Breyers, like coffee ice cream kind of thing. It's like 500 carbohydrates. I would work at the mall, and I'd work all day, and then I'd get a big old milkshake, because I'm like, I want to treat myself. And it was like, for the rest of the evening, my glucose levels were like nonsense. That was before the CGM, too, so I didn't really have a good idea of what was happening. I just kind of did a level, and I was like, 245, and then I'd compensate for it. But horrible. It was horrible for me. I played Descent 3 all night. That was when the Phantom Menace came out. Oh my god. Don't date yourself, you dumb fuck. We gotta make him work. He's a funnier character than we've ever had in Star Wars. Look at those feet! Man, look at this foot content on Twitch. It just goes and goes. Beautiful. Now it's even more slidey than it was before. But at least it has feet, and I'm not scraping the edges of this stuff on things. It's actually sliding above everything, nice and crisp. Now, there's a lot of sliding going on because of all these fasteners that I have in here, and we're going to have to utilize these on the various pieces of accoutrement that are going to adorn our module testing module. And a lot of that is the ammeters and the PSU circuit board. And I'm using the biggest circuit board that I have. It's probably against recommendations. I probably only need this much. But if there's more stuff that I need to incorporate in the design, I'm probably going to thank myself that I spread out quite a bit. Miscalculate, it's going to cause you a serious problem. I can inject Humalog all day, every day, and it barely swings my glucose level because I suck. I'm a terrible, terrible person, and my body has decided that it doesn't like to listen to Humalog, or Humalin, or whatever the fuck, Apidra, whatever flavor of Humalog derivation insulin that they give me. And I would love to use one of the more, what they call boutique insulins when they're talking about funding diabetes. They always talk about these boutique insulins. It's just fucking stupid. Because some people's management requires different types of insulin, and they have these wonderful, amazing insulins that are super duper fast acting. And I think that would lower my A1Cs quite significantly, but I don't get to use those. I don't get to use them. All right, so we planned on these screws, and I don't know how much I measured them. This should work. It's just off by a little bit. If you look at this, I guess my 0.2 wiggle room wasn't quite, whoa. Oh, that was my other hand in the way. Not quite my tempo. I think maybe the model that we have doesn't quite have the right, oh, there's also schmutz in there. Hold on. We can use the claw. The claw. We'll get our meaty fingers nice and close to it too. Just get those meaty digits just right there. That's right. It's like cutting a sausage off. Yeah, that corner is a little sharp for this thing. Maybe I should like not include it in the model. And there from the other side. I could also chamfer the corners on the board itself. But this should work. Yeah, I guess the computer takes care of the foibles of the Humalog for me. Could probably stand to reason that it would actually function with Walmart insulin, but not sure. I want to risk it. It's a little better. There's still stuff there, though. The 3D printer can't quite perform that corner in all cases. Sometimes it does a little better. Like that one would be passable. It seems like whatever board the GrabCAD model used is a little different from this one, and so that's where the variance comes from. But that's all well and good. We can still use these holes because they line up at all. Well, you trust nothing, measure everything, and then get fired because you don't get anything done. Jeez, okay, so if I do this and just get the screws started, then they'll line up, and then I can tighten them down to where they'll actually tighten. And hopefully fall into my little openings that I left it. Probably shouldn't have done that. I should have just done posts with the screw hole on it, because then it would be able to sit on top and be a little bit askew. I wanted to be fancy. I'm a fancy boy. So there's that started and loose. Let's get the other one. Scanner's not terrible at measuring these type of things. Look, I can't afford I can't afford a scanner. I would love to. I would love to cut my teeth on scanning some stuff. We tried a bunch of different methods of doing the low-cost scanning, and then the only thing left to test would be the expensive machines. I have one job for it, and that's it. That's it. One job. The one job is to scan the steering wheel body and get the shape, even just a relative shape of the airbag's curves, so that I can model it with 3D lines in Fusion, and I can print out a cover for that airbag. Oh, you mean scanner? Yeah, we've done that before. I've done that quite a bit with the RC car. You're right. Yes, I do have an office scanner. I bought that $200 Brother ink tank printer that I eventually want to do a project on. AKA make a linear bed with a stepper motor and a microcontroller, and have the micro poised to fool the ink tank printer into thinking that it's loaded a piece of paper and it is advancing it. Yeah, these will just sit on top of our weird... I'm not going to do much else. I'm not going to fix this. Actually, I am going to fix this. I'll just cut off the... I'm just going to cut off the little tabs that I put on this thing. The tabs were a mistake. Luckily, I can cut them right across the guide. Owie, I just poked myself with it. This knife has been in my body twice, which is not a big number, but it's strange that it happened that much. One can be yet fancier by cutting recesses into the corner edges to make that sharp. Yeah, but it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of the holes being different on the two different products. The holes is different, so I am just going to shave them. Do the best I can anyway. I think this knife might be not the right thing. Well, if it traces that depth, then I'll be okay. I think my puppy's okay for the afternoon, and I think I heard somebody come home. I'm not sure if anybody else is home right now, so I may need to do an afternoon walk. I think she knows to make me aware of whether or not she needs a walk, but I don't know if she totally knows that she can do that. My dog, that is. I literally just got done telling you that I had stabbed myself with it twice. Do you think that garners a warning from somebody else saying, hey, by the way, be careful with that? Yeah, this is 3D printed. And all I would have to do is delete this step where I made these little wings, because these wings were a mistake. It makes it less, what is it? Universal. We were running off of the holes for the GrabCAD part, and the holes of the GrabCAD part are different from what I bought from Amazon. Amazon. I guess the knife was poking up a little bit, huh? If you'll notice, now here's a little treatise on working with knives. I am moving away from any appendage because this thing will lash out. I'm putting a lot of pressure into it, and suddenly there's no pressure behind it. And that's when it flicks to the side and the whole table shakes. This camera's a little bit, the microscope is a little bit sensitive to shaking on the table, but like, I'm not getting a great cut out of this. It's not really getting too low. I could use a file. I could file it down. But these blades are hardened, they'll snap, and when you're putting a lot of force into a cut, all of a sudden that force will be relieved because there's nothing left to fight against you, and it'll fly out in a direction. So you got to watch out for that. Pick your battles, you know? I think I'm going to use a file on them. The file will just get rid of it. I'll cut it, and then I'll file them all. That'll take 2 seconds. Let me try in cautiously manners after your stream. Huh? I don't get that. Those words, I don't get the words in that order. All right, so let's just cut these 2 tabs. On this one. That was a mistake. It probably wouldn't take too long to print. These are pretty quick prints. They're not complicated objects, and the printer gets through them pretty quickly. So if I were not doing this with you guys here, maybe we wouldn't be cutting them, and I would just simply print another. But it's more fun to have a big scary blade on stream. Jeez. Ugh. Okay. That way you guys will get full 1080p arterial spray. Although actually a lot of viewers on Twitch are not 1080p, so having a full 1080p stream. I never get these streamers that have like 4K, super high resolution, like ultra mega graphics card stuff, because you're only broadcasting in like 980p because everybody has a chat window as part of their screen. I'm pushing too hard into this. I should not be pushing this hard. Come at it from the side. Waiting to see blood. You're not going to see blood. It's against toss, I think. Intentional is against toss for sure. Could you imagine if that wasn't against toss? Welcome to my demon summoning stream. All right, the file's going to do this much more cleanly. The file, plastic has no chance against the file. Ah, my mic pack. Hold on. I just stepped on the mic cable and the pack came with it. All right, file. Just a metal file. Nothing crazy. Ah, my hand's cramping. Crampy hands, crampy hands. I had a bulldog noodles for lunch just like right before stream, so my glucose level went, and now it's going. And so if it does that, there's lactic acid buildup in the muscles that I'm using, and my hands will end up going either closing or trying to open too much. And you feel it coming on. You're like, oh, there it is, flex the muscle. It's Charlie horse. Nothing crazy. But yeah, gripping this is causing it to happen. Oh yeah, no chance. No chance against it. See, I've been getting way too into Abiotic Factor, and I'm probably going to end up playing it a bunch tonight, too. Good game. It's like Half-Life 1, but It's a survival game. So you gotta, like, build your base and stuff. It's actually, I think it's more meant to be played with friends than what I'm doing, because I did play it with my friends, and they were pretty okay on it, but they had no desire to play it probably further than we did. Maybe we'll come back to it at some point, but in the meantime, I'm just like, all right, I'm going to do single player and figure this all out. I was watching Rob Oz play the new update, and I'm like, I'm nowhere near that. I'm nowhere near where he is. I'm barely putting together, I'm barely holding it together. No, because you're not my dad. It's not a potassium thing. It's a lactic acid buildup because of diabetes. It's something I've had all my life. When the glucose levels start swinging around, that lactic acid will cause cramps. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's not bananas. I don't need potassium. My ancestors are smiling upon my potassium. Can you see the same, Stormcloak? Is that going to reach the other one? Yeah, okay. So that actually fixes the whole thing. I should have done posts from the start. Now everything lines up perfectly. Live and learn. I liked having the little corner things like on here, because it just frames it nicely. It's not like there's no purpose to that. I could have had this be flat. It just kind of falls into place. No real purpose for it, but I liked it over there. Over here, it bit us in the foot because this is a different hole. And then the distance, the different hole makes a different distance horizontally. But since I did this in two pieces, that shouldn't make any difference. It just will slide to a different position on the rail. Don't know, there's a lot of good options out there. Everybody on my Discord has been talking about Bamboo Labs printers. Bamboo Labs, BAMBU. I don't know to what end, and I don't, again, it's like computers. I don't follow anything until I need to. So I don't know what the current state of the art is. All we know is what we know. That's not how that line goes, is it? All I know is all we... no, that's not right. I forget how that line goes. It's very confusing. What else could I say? I think we're going outside of the two. So these go like this. It's like this. And then like this. I would like it to have been... Oh, wow. I would like it to have been more of an open frame, but this part is definitely wrong. Fucking whoops. What happened there? Bad measurement. It looks like we are a full 10 millimeters off of where we should be. So that's going to need a new part. These were luckily configurable enough. So let's get the 3D printer spooled up. That's why we're doing this today. All apologies. Transported back to the mid-90s. All right, so we are looking at this one. And our measurements, our sacred measurements, are off. And it seems like they're off by exactly 10 millimeters. How did that happen? Measure this from here to here. It's 5 millimeters, so 5 millimeters to get to the center of the 10 millimeter. I've got marked off a couple boxes here. And then the distance from this rail to this rail here is 100. 90. 90 and a half. Hey, Caravos, how's it going? Yeah, that's 90 and a half. Oh, 89.4. Well, that was for it to leave that. Yeah, 90.5. Why 0.5? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why it's 0.5. But we better honor that. 90.3. That's because I twisted it as I removed it. I think the 0.5 is because I'm crooked. $94.4. How are you? I'm feeling a lot better than I should. I didn't get to sleep. I was up so late. And then I got like a couple hours of sleep. We're going to set it to 90. I think 90 is probably the better guess, because I think this is a standard 100. And it's possible that you could just push it together a little bit and get it to fit. How easily do the extrusions cut? They cut okay. It's just cutting them cleanly is kind of difficult unless you have power tools. Like getting that perfect shine. Then, in order to get something to mount, this is not threaded all the way through. This is threaded like just a little bit down the line. So you need to not only get the tap to put threads in the end, you need to get the proper size drill bit for the tap, because the extrusion isn't quite big enough. And you're going to be removing too much material with the tap. And you can see on some of the ones that I've tapped myself, it bulges out in the middle. These things are strange and kind of like weak, because they've got these little, like, I don't know, whatever they are, the small attachment to the end of the extrusion. So if you go to clamp them with a vise, they crush. They actually crush in and that thing bends. So you need like, what I do is make like a jig that'll hold the thing together. And so when it clamps in, it's actually clamping against like plastic. It's pinching a piece of 3D printed plastic and it doesn't distort it as much. From there, use a power tool to cut it. You can get a clean cut on that, maybe file it just a little bit, get the burrs off of it. You chamfer and tap that end hole after drilling it. Drill, chamfer, tap, and then you've got a viable thing. So if you use it to make an open air PC frame, you can keep it like with the standard lengths and make it look really Bush League, or you can do the cuts and make it look absolutely perfect. I have a struggle between the two. It's like, do I make it look totally amazing and perfect, or do I just leave it as an open air, like basic PC jig that'll just kind of hold all the components together? But really, the possibility is up to you. This stuff is a little bit pricey, but it pays in dividends when you're done a project to undo all of this stuff and throw it in a bin. So it helps in that sense. I'm not married to a project. All right, so we need 10 less millimeter on our span. Where did that come from? It came from the sketch, the initial sketch, right? So not that one, not that one. We have this one, which is a projection of what? Like, there's the PCB, but where's this stuff coming from? Brace, brace, body. Sketch, sketch, sketch. Origin, construction, PCB. Why are these like fixed? Where did I get that from? From this sketch? I think so. So 200 by 90. Finish. Thinking. Whoa. Actually, this might be ideal. This actually might be ideal, because having little legs in the back means that all the plugs can be further back towards the back of the device. So I think I'm going to keep this. I think I'm actually going to keep this. CAD, you did something good. Although you did make this not reversible. This will be no longer reversible, because they're different lengths, so I can't just print two of the same thing. I'll have to export them differently. Are you finding that the measurements in the software translating directly to what is actually being printed? I've done a lot of work to achieve that. You print like a 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch cube, and then you measure it, and then you tweak your printer settings for the amount of steps per millimeter of movement down to what you need it to do. There are websites that help you tune printers, and those are very much worth taking a look at, because they will help you get into the point where I am, where I know exactly the shrinkage of the material versus what my printer prints, and it all automatically compensates for all that stuff. And that depends on the filament too. So there's a lot of testing, a lot of iterative testing that you do in order to get to that point. So let's get rid of these. That's a mirror step. That's not the step I'm looking for. Let's get rid of these. That would be this one. Doot, 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 bonk. All right, cool. There we go. There's our PCB holder. That's it. That's all. Do I want it to be a little higher up than that? For fun, maybe? Oh wait, there's two extrusions. Almost messed that up. Bonk. You die. Yeah, I'm gonna move the PCB up a little bit. So go into this step, and then move this thing. We'll go up by like 2. Finish the sketch, and now everything should compensate because we did it based on the height of that board. There it is. We got 2 more millimeters out of the thing. Cool. Okay, so now I need to print both of these instead of just one twice. So, yeah, and see the difference in the design here? So between that little hole being sort of in the middle of that pad to, I guess it won't show until I remove the screw. To a slightly larger, slightly more inset hole. Well, it's actually, yeah, it looks like it's just a much larger hole that's a little bit more inwards. I'm not going to do anything to correct that. I don't care. Oh, and these pads are longer too. Where did I get this board? These pads are a little longer. We're not planning much. This is going to be built by the seat of our pants. I'm not going to do a lot with CAD in here, except mount it. So we know this works, so we're just going to keep it that way. And then we've reduced the number of millimeters for the back end, and this will push this board back a little bit to where I can mount some kind of a back panel and have something, you know, make all the connectors look nice and flush and good. I know that feeling. I think I almost got 2 hours today. I went to bed at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I had troubles with my glucose sensor because I went, oh wait, it's not getting a signal. That's because I reused this one. So my glucose sensor's on like day 15 of actually it's on day 19 of its 10-day cycle. And so I was like, oh, okay, so maybe it's just a range thing. So I turned over to where my shoulder was near the phone, and it still wasn't getting glucose levels like 10 minutes later, 10, 15 minutes later. And it's like, it is 4 o'clock, 4 something in the morning, and that's soon going to be a number 5. The sun is going to start coming up. Why am I not getting glucose levels here? This is the most crucial time to have my automated system take care of me, is when I'm not conscious. So I was like, what the hell is going on? And I looked at Xstrip, which is the program that's coordinating the signals between my glucose sensor and the phone. It's the one that receives the glucose information. I'm like, Xstrip, what the hell's going on? And it's like, sensor stopped. Want to start a new sensor? I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden, like 4 notifications came in. Sensor stopped, sensors stopped. And they're all from like 4 hours ago. And it's like, wait, where were these notifications? Why isn't my phone doing this? The fucking Pixel was just like, oh, don't worry about that. You don't need to be informed of that. You're probably asleep. So I then had to go all the way downstairs to the desk behind me. Turns out I hadn't opened up a medical supply box. Get the knife, open up the box, get the thing out of the box, get the set out, put the set on, or, you know, rip off the old one, put the sensor, the little transmitter down on the desk, open up the injector for the new pad, put it on the shoulder, flick off the little safety and press the button. Ow, ooh, that didn't really hurt. Discard all that plastic, press down on the adhesive, clip the transmitter in, which sometimes gets a little awkward when it's like all the way over here. I'm just like holding it by my pinky finger. Click, click. Okay, we're good. Go to the phone, start the sensor, give it the code on the labeling so that it knows what glucose numbers are what. Click OK, then you have 2 hours to wait for this thing to calibrate. It is nigh approaching 5 o'clock in the morning, and it said, if I die, I die. I go to bed, and that's like enough time that the thing should have started calibrating, and then all those notifications started popping up. Sensor's bad, this is everything's shit. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I ignored all of that. I ignored all the notifications. The timer, the little countdown timer, was actually ticking down. So I'm like, maybe it's okay, or maybe the transmitter's so old that it doesn't have battery life. Which one could it be? Too tired to deal with it. Went to bed. Woke up, everything's fine. But yeah, that apparently didn't completely tire me out. I feel fine today. Probably until I crash later this afternoon, but goddamn was that annoying. Do I want like a cross beam on this thing? I probably don't. Nah, we don't need a cross beam. We don't need a cross beam, even though kinematically this thing is pushing to like torque it, like twist it. I'm not gonna worry about that. We're gonna do it because it's fancy. All right, so bodies. I need this one. Save as mesh. Okay. Save. Yes, replace it. Next one. Save as mesh, even with the parenthesis 1 in there. Okay, save. And then I go to the printer. This shouldn't take long to print. Let's see what the estimates are gonna be. So I take my 2 files. Temp prints. Take that over like that. It goes there. Take that over like that. It goes there. People don't consider that kind of stuff with diabetes because diabetics have managed to manage their own health condition in just the greatest way possible. They've done a very good job of managing their own health condition to the point where other people can easily trivialize it. Why are you late? I got in trouble at work for going to doctor appointments. It's like, bud, this is before I even knew, like, bro, I'm like a protected class under the ADA. Like, you can go fuck yourself. All right, so that's all set and sliced, and it's going to take 20 minutes, which isn't too bad for a 3D print. I don't have one of these balls to the wall super duper printers. When it used to be in manufacturing of products, you bring the interesting subject of calculating shrinkage of the material when they create a mold. It's scientific artwork. For the 3D printer, it's just like a percentage. Like PETG shrinks by, I think, 3%. And I've done a couple test prints, and it doesn't seem like I need to even put that in. I don't really need to call out the 3% on it. I don't know why. Generally, things just kind of work out. Maybe because it's such a small distance in the end. So that's all I need to do to prep. Just those 2 things. If you press the 4th button on top when you're moving the elements, it will center it automatically. 4th button on top. That? No. That's down against the plate. Rotate, scale, seams. Oh, arrange. That's cute. I didn't want it like that though. I wanted like the, well, actually it should be the other way around. That way the printer has to do the larger move, but I want them a little bit more separated. Just a little bit more separated. I want that printer to have to travel from one thing to the other because they're going to not spend a lot of time on each element, especially when it gets to those little circles on the top. You want to make sure to move your print head around to give things time to kind of like cool and stick. Otherwise, it can get kind of melty with PETG. But that's good advice. That's cool. Okay, so let's go to Octoprint, and because of the weird way that I've set up my printer, and because I am set in my ways, I have done nothing to upgrade this after getting a really good thing going, which means the way that I've made the control panels that the Raspberry Pi is always powered up. It has a Raspberry Pi power supply that we tore apart and put inside of the control housing for this printer. The control housing is really good looking, but it has an opaque cover on it. I should get a piece of glass that I can put on top of that thing because it looks really cool inside. But it has a Raspberry Pi power supply because the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus is a moody little bitch that requires 5.1 volts. Somebody made a mistake, or somebody had to do something in a particular way that was not the way that they should have done things, and then we get something like a 5.1 volt requirement on a device that is powered with a USB socket. It is criminal. They should be tried at The Hague, but that's what we get. So I had to use a Raspberry Pi specific power supply that's always on, so that the Octoprint server is always up, just in case I want to plug in any other devices to my Pi server. Problem with that is that Klipper gets a little crazy with the microcontroller getting out of sync with Klipper, because Klipper kind of takes over the microcontroller. You don't need a super fast processor on the microcontroller on the control board side, because Klipper deals with all of the calculations that are necessary for 3D printing, and then it divvies simple instructions out to the microcontroller, because what are your pins doing? So in that sense, I mean, I've got a 32-bit microcontroller on the printer, and it's totally being underutilized. But if it falls out of sync with the two things, it gets weird. So I reboot the whole Raspberry Pi whenever I'm about to do a print. It's not a good look, but it's just what I've settled on in terms of the least amount of annoyance in my procedure. So we get a serial firmware version, serial number and everything. So now I test the BL Touch down, I hear a click. BL Touch up, I hear a click. If I don't hear a click, which very rarely ever happens, usually it's when the BL Touch has been sitting long enough that I guess the magnet, there's like a grub screw and then a magnet that sort of sticks to that grub screw. And if it sits for too long, it magnetizes that grub screw a little bit more. And so it has trouble with its little coil breaking the two apart. And so all I have to do is take a pair of tweezers and just go, and just pull its little thingy-wingy, and then it starts working again. But I always do that test to hear if I hear the clicking, everything's good. So now that that's all ready to go, we're ready for a print. I've got gray loaded in. Gray is my test color. It's for my iterative designs, and you call mistakes iterations. That's just how it is. So for my iterative designs, my designs that are riddled with mistakes, I do gray. It's just a good neutral color. You can see all the contours of the object, and gray, from what I hear in terms of the coloration of the plastic, works out nicely. Apparently it just prints a little bit cleaner than its brethren. Printing in black, everything can look really cool in black and mysterious, and you're like Batman, but you can't see your design. You need to like get a flashlight out to take a look at your design. So okay, so let's slice. We already had, oh, I guess we're slicing again. Hey, 21 minutes. Aligning everything saved me 4 minutes. What are we gonna do with all that time? So I send and print, I'm that confident. And my entire prep for printing is just to make sure that there's no more plastic. Oh, I failed, there's a piece of plastic on the, I failed you, I'm sorry. Oh my God, how could you forgive me? I just make sure there's no plastic on the bed. With the Creality, special Creality bed material, it's basically a marquee pattern of exposed glass. It's got little circles of exposed glass, and everything else is, I guess, a Teflon-like. I don't know exactly. It might even be Teflon, but it's on a sheet of glass, so I can't use any of those magnetic probes. What the heck? Ah! That was my mic cable getting into the fan. That was a weird one. My microphone cable was in the fan. That was a weird one. That could have ended very badly. Well, not really. It probably would have just broken the cable. But the surface of this thing, it basically, you keep it clean, and the PETG will stick to all of those little circles, and it sticks really, really well. And when things cool off, because of that 3% expansion coefficient, or shrinkage coefficient, I guess, it means that all of those little circles, the plastic on it moves just a little bit, and that pops the print off of the bed. So if you're patient, if you wait like 20 minutes for the bed to fully cool, your print will just fall off. Always consider putting this thing up at like a 90-degree angle so that it prints it against the wall. You know, like that dog that poops up against objects and the poop like sticks on the thing. Saw a video of that on, what was it, probably on Reddit. The dog poops up against somebody's car, and there's just like this poop sitting on the side of the car, like horizontally sitting on the side of the car. PETG could work very similarly. So I could have this thing vertical, print, and then when it cools, it just drops. That'd be very good for manufacturing. Although static electricity holds some stuff on there, so... So the print is heating up. The printer is heating up. We're just going to get this print going, and then I'll have a new thing to put the power supply on. In the meantime, I guess we can try to fit the front panel and see what that looks like. What mistakes would I have made on this one? So I've got 4 bolts here. Oh, there it is. That one fell all the way in there, so I couldn't see it. I was like, did I forget? What did I, wait. So I need to get the 4 mounts on these things. Oh, there they go. So yeah, 2 here, and going out the door. I don't know if other people are home. I'm not sure if I should go. Try to take her for a walk and just leave you guys on BRB with the printer going. That would probably be terrible for my numbers. Numbers have not been great. Those of you that stick around are awesome. I tried doing YouTube videos, and that's helped a little bit. I should do edited YouTube videos, though. I think that'll kick things up a little bit. And, you know, getting Burn the Subs running, of course, is the ongoing major thing that will draw people back in. So we will get to Burn the Subs. I've got a UV print that I need to do in Burn the Subs. Yeah, Willow Riot. That's a great emote. Okay, 4 bolts. That'll be for the 4 mounts. 4 mounts we got over here. And these should fit so that both of these are center on the rails. I didn't make anything that fits in down here. I probably could have. Then it would have been a little bit more difficult to print the whole thing. If I printed it on its side, I could have put just a little bit of support material and had like a channel trough here. Without something like that, if I push the screw too hard when I'm screwing it in, it'll just twist. So it'll be slightly annoying to work with for a bit, but I think it'll be okay. These are universal enough to fit in places like that. So, you know, I could have just had a hole there. Oh no, but that panel, the panel doesn't go over that. The panel fits inside of that frame, which I think will look good. That's the main reason I did it. Oh, I almost made it too thick. Well, I'm gonna really wrench this down so it'll crush itself into the plastic just a little bit. That way it's less prone for twisting when I put pressure on it. Look at that, nice. It's nice to have symmetrical parts. You just print 1 or 2 of the things. Or print 1 version of the thing and it fits everywhere. The other thing I can do is adjust this from the back. Oh, that bark might have been for my, that might be the panels arriving. I love T-slot extrusion. Yeah, it's very nice to be able to just have a total malleable design that you can wiggle everything into position with. The only problem is when you try to build like a cube with it and everything is off. And that's when Twisted Sister bought me the 90-degree square. Since then, I bought a kit of a bunch of them, but wait, where did it go? It's supposed to be right there. Where'd the square go? What did I use it for? I think I used it on this. Where then would it be? Oh, the hovercrafts are here. I don't know if the hovercrafts are going to get close to the door today. All right, now these 2 here, and then this thing will be outside of them. So we need the inner 2. Oh, wow. That is a big span. That's a big wingspan on that thing. So yeah, 1, 2 to the outside, these to the inside. And they shouldn't interfere with each other at all. Now let me get the bolt on before I do this, which I've covered over. There it is. My claw hands. Yeah, they're doing all the neighborhood mowing right now, which is Four Seasons Total Landscaping, the very same from the campaign trail. One of my favorite moments in history. Oops, this way. Yeah, just doing that for symmetry. Okay, center this. I got it close. I mean, I could loosen them and then put the screws through and then tighten it again. That's probably the way to go. Getting to them will be a bit of a challenge. Actually, that's not that hard. That's not that hard. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to loosen all of them. What? Why did I get that screwdriver? Loosen them all. I'm not putting a washer on these. If you were concerned about marring the finish, you'd probably want to put a washer on it. I think the plastic is going to bend in a little bit and hold those bolts in place. The other thing that you would do is if all of these were metal parts, you put a washer on there because under vibration, eventually the washer is going to keep this from loosening from vibrations. The thing about lock washers is, like, once you get beyond the point where the lock washer has loosened, it can encourage the bolt to loosen all the way. Typically, it really kind of doesn't, but the amount of vibration you need in order to start to get that fastener to loosen is way, 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 way more than you would have with just the nut on the bolt against a flat sheet. So that the advantage of having anything, even just a washer, is much greater than having it be bare. Even if when it loosens up, it'll hold on longer because the vibration doesn't have like a reverse mechanism to kind of keep it going. It kind of ratchets it under vibration. That was something that chat had to teach me. That was something that I did not know. And I was under the opposite impression. I'd watched some videos from a long time ago that laid it out, and it turns out they're wrong. And there were receipts, there were presentations, there were research papers that spelled it out, called me a jackass. Of course, with these kits, I always run out of the one size, the M2x3. That'll stick out by a half. I need it to be a little longer than that. Mechanically, we don't need this thing to totally attach super strongly, but we should give it an advantage. And if this is too long, sir, it's the henchman. Hey, how's it going? Like, mechanically, I don't need this to hold on to a ton of plastic. It's just, if I have too much fastener sticking out of the other end, that means that there's going to be a lot of friction, and I risk stripping the bolt. How's the 3D print doing? It is printing. Okay, cool. Maybe by the time we get this thing mounted, we'll have delicious new plastic to put in place. Now, with Phillips head screws, especially with these laptop screws, you want to use the largest size Phillips head you can afford to grip the screw with. That way, it is pressing up against the most amount of the cheap material that the screw has been made out of. Too many times I've had the thing strip on me. Now, did I use a different size fastener from what we have, or is this thing going to grip? It will immediately grip, but it'll probably feel like it's stripping the entire time. I mean stripping, that's a streamer. All right, so there's our first one, and it seems like this is holding it up on stuff that I don't feel under there, but it looks like the size will be fine. Chillin', mechanical engineering, you know, stuff that's outside of our wheelhouse. Looks like our screw holes are lining up. That's rare. This seems like a missed opportunity, but I did it for the look of the frame surrounding this panel. We could have taken advantage of that threaded hole being right there. We could have did it. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm getting these in place, and then I'll push the panel into position, and then I can tighten down all of the little mounting things. Because you can see right here, it's like, it's all over the place. We can tie that down. Whoever thought these wouldn't be visible is totally wrong. These are amazingly visible. Look at that. That's going to be great. So now I got to work myself into this panel and actually get it to tighten down. Get it to tighten. Get your ass to tighten. Oh, it looks like these two are, whatever. They're in the same direction, but they can be, I can always come back and fix that. Can't get to it with Dave's thing here. So there's my first thing. I can't, I guess I could just remove Dave's module, but I think what I'm going to do is I will reverse this. Oh, I shouldn't have taken the bolt fully off of it. Doesn't matter. There we are. Where'd the bolt go? Oh, yeah, the nut, rather. There it is. Inside of the fastener. Here we go. So, not the most solid front panel mount, but it is good enough. After all, there are no test points on the front. There's no controls on the front. We're not really doing much with that. It's just a display. And it would have been funny if I was willing to take on another project, I could put a VFD display in this, and then we could use 3 shunt amplifiers in the power supply schematic, but I didn't want a whole nother project that involved VFDs. So this is, I mean, this is like a wobbly, it's a kind of a wobbly setup. These probably could have used a second, like a brace on the other side, but I think just for holding them up in place on an open frame, I think it's totally fine. We're not going to go crazy with it. So the power supply is going to be in there like this, but it'll be a little bit more towards the back. It'll actually look exactly like it does right here, just so that the overhang. And then I will have the control panel. These, of course, because it's maker beam, I've got the bolts already in it instead of having bolts come through from the other side, like you would on a typical Euro rack. But then I'll have everything I need to test synthesizers. This is looking good. I'm actually going to get bolts for this. Nuts for this. I'm going to get nuts for this. You guys are going to give me nuts for this. Tweezers. Right here. Hardware is starting to come together, but I'm extremely good at hardware. What I'm not extremely good at is software. I am meticulous with software, but that doesn't make me good with software. I think people who do things a little bit more sloppy than I do are better at software applications than I am, since the entire purpose, the entire industry is moving forwards in computing power. That extra computing power can basically hoover up inefficiency. It can compensate for not being meticulous about the cycles of your processor. I'm starting to become a dinosaur because I like things to be super duper task specific and simple. But if you have generic stuff going together, it'll run just fine. And the most important part is that it runs. So yeah, I'm getting left in the dust for that one. But anyway, it's gonna be hell for a little while. We're gonna have to work a lot on software for this. I don't know to what end I'm gonna do a UI. LVGL is a pretty good LCD running thing where you can have a program, like a layout, like a test layout that you can put together. LVGL is all well and good if you've already got an idea of what you're gonna do. I don't have any idea of what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna scale up. Some other type of software that you feel less proficient in. There's all kinds of stuff I feel less proficient in. All kinds of stuff. You sit me in front of Ruby on Rails and I'll have no idea what I'm doing. But I guess that's a good thing. It's starting to take shape. The shape is of a little house. It's a little Scandinavian house. But it is taking shape. So I'll be able to configure my I/O and have measurements. I don't know how I'm going to swing that. It'll probably, all the text will probably be the smallest size, but I do need to work with it a little bit. Well, like, you know, the little, like, the, like, sloped roof, where it's like there's very little of, like, house beneath the big, giant fuck-off roof. That's all I mean. What the? How much do we have to go through on this print here? SMH in my head. Just because you, listen, I'm allowed to spread misinformation on the internet. I'm allowed to say whatever my stupid American brain thinks. No, wrong view. I'm actually still on the computer. Time left. Yeah, we'll get this done in no time. It'll be done very soon. Got 10 minutes left. $10 to go. I should have moved this camera over to burn the subs. Maybe I can do that for tomorrow. Although I don't know if we're gonna be printing tomorrow. I don't know how much printing is gonna happen. We'll probably need to. I said I'd be soldering today, and I lied. I keep thinking that we're gonna actually start putting components down for the power supply, but we get bogged down in other stuff, like my inability to measure things properly. Which is absolutely what happened today. My inability to measure things properly led to us having to do a little bit more 3D printing in order to get this thing more together. But in a few moments here, we will actually have the 3D print, and it may stand to reason. I have a delivery notification. Let me go check that out. I'm going to do this view, and I'm going to put up a BRB. Where's BRB? Oh, no, it's over here. Scenes. No, not scenes. Overlays. BRB. Okay, I'll BRB. I'm going to put something up. What am I going to put up here? Let's go back to like this. All right, BRB. It was not me. That wasn't my package. All right. Well, that leaves us kind of high and dry until this printed part comes through. That was not the package that I thought it was. It was stupid clothing. I need my sensors. My current sensors. I'm gonna look up when they'll get here. Or it might be that they thought it already delivered or something. Let's look at the orders. Tomorrow by 10. Now arriving tomorrow by 10. God damn it, tomorrow by 10 p.m. We're gonna be up Schitt's Creek because of that delay. Yeah, I might have to delay tomorrow to Saturday. I think I'm gonna set the command for Saturday as my next stream, because if we don't get those ammeters in, we can't do the power supply. So okay, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna set the commands for a Saturday stream. Unfortunate that I got to do that. Maybe tomorrow I can try to use the retro bright on keys, and I won't subject you guys to having to watch that, because it's basically just going to be me spraying stuff. So what I need to do is I need to go to my admin section. I'm going to set the end to be Saturday, which is what day, because I spelled it wrong on the title card. Title card's so old that it's now traditional. 17th. I don't think I have anything going on the 17th. All my friends moved away. That, and then the next command I set to the same date. Wait a minute, no. The next command should be for... Yeah, no, we're still going to use the end command, that's right. An Amazon A1C test? How does that even work? What's the technology behind that? Is it something you send in to get lab work done? I just get mine done at the hospital system around here, and whenever I go in, whenever I walk into the hospital, they just take all of my blood. That's crazy. So it's a color change strip test. Proven accuracy. That needs an asterisk. 2 shaker, 2 cartridge. So what, you... $60? Jeez. A1C is the hemoglobin A1C in your blood cells, and depending on your glucose level, it's affected by it over the course of 3 or 2 months. 2 or 3 months. It's like a blood test. You can't lie about your numbers on the A1C. And so when you bring that A1C down, it's saying that your average glucose level is closer to such and such a number. So the A1C pretty much dictates diabetic's life. What's about the price here? But yeah, I didn't know there were home test kits for it. I don't know how much I trust a home test kit for something like that. I would rather have it like a lab do it. Even though the lab is probably the same. Test your own sound before declaring that there's no sound, please. All right, so we've got all this stuff going for us, but nothing is connected to each other. My current meters are not going to get here very soon. It's possible also that when the current meters get here that they'll be way too bright, and I'll have to go in there and like alter them in order to turn the brightness down. Just got out from school. You mean like into the working world, or school just let out for the day? Currently, we're working on a module testing module. So this thing sitting behind the camera here is my modular synthesizer, but none of the modules have really been tested to fruition. Not entirely. The mutable instruments ones are closer because I've done a lot of tuning with them. But what I would like to do is have one thing that I use to test modules. And I could spend $300 on something that came from somebody who makes modules and knows what a tester is required to do, or I can DIY it. And it turns out I have a lot of DIY stuff, and I've got a lot of chops behind doing a DIY module testing module. So I'm deciding to kind of put it together on my own. There's going to be a lot of screen stuff to do. We used a very fancy screen. It's called a VFD, a vacuum fluorescent display. These things can make cool looking images all over out of individual little pixels. The thing is, like, this is kind of an old one, so it's possible that I'm going to be limited in the software and what I can display. I can display fonts directly, which will make putting numbers that we measure on screen nice and easy. In order to get all of that done, a slow screen, inputs and outputs, and not have to make any decisions early on, I wanted to have everything be an input or an output. And so with stuff I already had, I had these digital to analog converters, which are I2S, which is sort of like an audio, it's a type of audio signal that you can use with microcontrollers. I have a Teensy 4.1, which is an insanely fast microcontroller. That's controlling 6 channels of I2S. We could have 8, but I think that's excessive. I think we only need 6 channels. What these things are able to output is either a DC voltage level, a gate, or just a full wave. And I have the ability on all 6 of the channels to output all of that at once. So from that microcontroller controlling all these waves, I can configure it with various menu options when I build them. That's all well and good. But then what happens when you have an input signal into this channel? Well, the problem with I2S is that it has an LR clock. That means you have a left channel and a right channel. So if you only have one channel of I2S input, that means you only have left and right in. So we have only 2 channels of input. But to be fair, I'm not going to be measuring 6 signals at once. I can get around that with the modular synthesizer stuff. I shouldn't have to measure 6 things at once. Measuring 2 things at once, that's fine. We should be able to do that. So I have 2 channels here that are scaled with an amplifier. How do I make that work with the 6 plugs? Well, I don't want to decide. I don't want to have like, oh, this one's actually an in, this one's actually an out. No, everything does everything. That means that we need to put a mux on there. And because I did work in high school on an internship actually, this is where my mother worked. She worked for a research operation that was making a non-invasive brain monitoring probe. And the non-invasive brain monitoring probe, it relies on the fact that your brain always uses about the same amount of blood. There is a vascular structure at the back of the head. That's why when you slam somebody in the back of the head, they get knocked out. That's not true. That's misinformation. When you slam somebody in the head, their brain hits the side wall of the skull, and that's why they pass out. But anyway, there's a vascular structure at the back of the head that divvies out all of that blood. So it constricts and dilates the vascular structure in order to move blood to particular parts of the brain. And then if the brain is using that blood, it gets deoxygenated. Think about near-infrared light. Near-infrared makes no difference. Near-infrared light, you see like the dim infrared emitters showing stuff, but they're absolutely blasting 2 distinct frequencies of near-infrared light. One goes through bones and stuff and skin and appendage, and it bounces off of blood. So it can get a blood volume measurement depending on how much light is reflected back at the sensors. The second frequency gets, I think, absorbed by oxygenated blood, so you can measure the volume of deoxygenated blood. It might be the other way around. But so given a bunch of optical sensors and 2 infrared lights, 4 infrared lights, because you want to measure each lobe on the front of the brain where hair doesn't block everything, you can get a measure of how much the frontal cortex of the brain is being utilized and how much blood is getting to it. So if you are thinking about solving a problem, you get oxygenation and you get volume, and then all of a sudden you solve the problem, it all drops off. It's pretty cool stuff. So we had students solving anagrams while I was working on hardware. The hardware for this thing was a bunch of infrared sensors, and those infrared sensors were going into muxes, and those muxes would go into other switches, and they would have digital potentiometers. That was a component that I found. Digital potentiometers that would help calibrate the whole thing, get it all running, and get the readings out of it. but those muxes were max 308s and 309s. The reason they were is, I guess, just because it was a quality part at the time. I now have a ton of these in my bins because I procured a lot of them. This is many, many years ago, but that max 308 and 309 works. Well, a lot of the research project circuit was op amps, and so those 308s and 309s go really well with plus minus 12 volt signals, which is what we have here. We have plus minus 10 volts, but if they work for 12, they work for 10. And we looked at them on the oscilloscope and they follow just perfectly. So I have a bunch of these Maxim products. In the end, the scheme for this thing is going to be we have an audio output that goes into an amplification stage to get it up to 10 volts. It'll then go through a disconnect, which is essentially going to be a digital switch, which can disconnect the output from that line so that the output doesn't influence the op-amp circuit. That then goes out to everything. We have a gate sensing signal, which will go to one of many digital pins that we have access to. So those digital pins will always be connected, even if we have an arbitrary waveform on here. We just won't pay attention to what's coming back on our gate signal input. That way, when we have a gate input, it does not have to be on one of our dedicated 2 channels of audio analysis input. Every single channel is going to get its own amplifier with an LED on it in order to indicate what's going on that channel. It may not be all that scientific, but it's nice to watch the blinking lights tell you what you've configured. From there, the input is coming into an 8-port digital mux. That mux connects a common port to any of the 8 inputs. Now, but bother, you say, we only have 6 channels. Well, the other 2 channels are fairly important. What they will be is a plus minus voltage that's spread out as far as I can get it. So plus minus 10 volts from the plus minus 10 volt voltage sources that we have on the circuit. What that allows us to do is connect this, I guess, D amplifier, this scaling DC offset amp stage. We can connect it to the extremes and figure out in the range of 3 volt peak to peak what plus and minus 10 are. And it's not going to be exact, which is why we can measure the more exact whatever it is, source voltages. These things are super accurate. I don't know how accurate, I would have to look at the data sheet, but they are more accurate than anything else we have on the board. So those will come in and we will be able to scale the numbers that we get back, the 1 to 1024 that we get back from the 0 to 3.3 volt input. Now, in terms of this chip right here, that thing cannot read a DC voltage level. It has a high-pass filter built into it that we can't disable. So that will not read DC. Instead, we will have analog inputs. 2 analog inputs are going to be dedicated to these waveform or whatever, the generic I/O. So we'll be able to calibrate it to a voltage level. Potentially, we can set this to a DC voltage level and measure it back through this whole nonsense to here and scale that properly. And then we can have a waveform created with that peak-to-peak voltage, and that can then be measured for peak-to-peak through here. And so then we'll have proper DC scaling. We'll have everything can self-calibrate. That's the beauty of this circuit. Fairly complicated, though. It'll be basically like a startup procedure is to self-calibrate. So I'll probably have to have like a thing where you say, unplug everything for self-calibration. You unplug everything, hit OK, and then it does it. I don't know. Or I'll have it be like a separate option. So this thing has been cooling. I appreciate making the machine do its own work so that I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to sit here and calibrate it. It'll just know what 10 volts is. This is 10 volts. This is not. And it's not like I'm not going to be using it as a basis for specific voltage measurement. If I really need to do that, I'll be able to use the my regular equipment, my oscilloscope and stuff. But having this thing able to measure frequencies would be quite nice. So yeah, we're not going to stream tomorrow. We're going to stream on Friday because I'm waiting for parts. I don't have parts. I got to wait for Saturday. So Saturday we will have a stream. Tomorrow we will not. I will probably be playing with Scotch, or Retro Bright, not Scotch. I keep saying Scotch Bright. I'll be playing with Retro Bright because, yeah, because it'll be cool. I'm going to force the issue here. I'm going to spritz some Windex on this, and that'll evaporate and cool everything. And hopefully the detergents in the Windex get under the plastic. But I don't really know if that's so much of a thing. That can potentially distort things. Oh, there we go. It worked perfectly. All right, so we got our new supports that we just designed. Let's get these in there, and then we can oogle at how cool this thing looks. Let me just mop up the Windex a little bit here so it cleans the bed with a paper towel that I found in a bin. That is the whole width and breadth of the amount of maintenance that I do on the print bed. That's it. That's it. That's all you get. Just a little wiggle with a paper towel and all said and done. All right, so now screwdriver time. Where's that last screw? There it is. Oh my God, they're mowing the lawns outside. My poor little corgi got so excited when I went upstairs. I'm like, I'm sorry, little one, I gotta go back. I gotta go back to work. She's barking at the people outside now. What is my glucose level doing? Check. Oh, it's normal. Top side of normal, but it's normal. All right, these are iterations. In the whole grand scheme of iterative designs, these go to an honored place, the garbage bin. And now we can put these on. These, of course, don't have those walls all over them, so I don't need to do anything. I don't need to do any post-processing on them. I just need to center the hole, get the screwdriver to go in flat. If it does go in crooked into these plastic holes, it'll eventually flatten itself, but that's after scraping the sidewall with the threads. Sometimes that works out just because there's a certain amount of material in there and it'll just get redistributed a little bit, but other times it can be a little detrimental to having a tight fit because it's stripping its own threads. Generally, though, in the stuff that we're doing, it's not that big of a deal. What's everybody else up to? Oh, looks like Tomato Man went on. What he's doing today. I've been wanting to play, what is it, Signal Simulator, or whatever that thing is that everybody's playing lately. Seems like a fun game, but I don't have any of the previous versions of that game under my belt. So I don't know what it's all about. Seems kind of fun in a zany way. All right. And this thing's kind of crazy. It's like a flying squirrel. All right, so this thing goes in here. See if we can mount it and get some bolts on it. And then we can try to figure out what our panels are going to be. If we're going to put a panel in. If I put a panel in, I could have it inset here and have it like flat and then go up. I don't want like a big back panel because these things may potentially go down into this space. Okay, so that fits great. What about these? Are these 0.5 millimeter off? Yeah, it might be. Which may be just a matter of me tightening this thing up a little bit. Maybe off by 0.5 millimeter. Oh, no, that one did fine. What about you? Third wheel. The thing about MakerBeam is it really doesn't like misalignment. If things are a little misaligned, the bolt gets crooked, and then it doesn't slide in the way that you would want it to. It's going to sound like angry bees because there are angry bees outside. Angry, angry bees. Oh my God. Oh, I wish batteries were more viable for lawn care equipment. They're good if you're like a weekend gamer, but even on a lawnmower of a decent sized lawn, like There's no way you could put together a battery pack big enough for a commercial operation unless you do like Tesla batteries. I guess as those become more common, maybe that would be something, but it would be so nice if the only noise out there was just the shroomf of the blades. But no, this is what I endure because this shop is in a basement. One day I'll be topside, chat. One day. I'll have the sun streaking through my hair. The wind at my heels. These I did a little thick, but I think they're okay. Yeah, that seems all right. Of course, tightening those front ones is not going to be easy. All the way in there. It's starting to come together. I mean, from a hardware standpoint, getting all of these circuit elements together is going to also be a challenge. I'm going to need 2 Max 333s. I'm going to need the how many 309s? 2 of them, because it's left and right channel. I'm going to need a lot of op amps, quite a few op amps actually. Damn it. Because we'll need to have connectors on this board that do all the current shunts. We got to test that I can get a negative 12 volt current shunt working. And that's tough. It's all, I mean, electricity is all potentials, right? So theoretically, if that current shunt is isolated, would it be able to measure current from ground to negative 12 volts as if it was going from ground to positive 12 volts? Because it's all relative. Its grounds will be at 6, but it doesn't know that. It thinks it's 0, and then the usage will be on the negative 12 volt line. I think it'll work, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there we go. So that's taking shape. It's taking shape, our little lean-to, our little wood storage shed. On the back of this thing, there will be another massive circuit board that I have to cut into shape. That'll have standoffs. This will have probably 2 standoffs. And then I'll have to put like a post here. I don't know if that'll hold. I might need to design something that'll hold on to the back of the screen and then have mounts for the perforated prototyping board. And then all the modules will go on that back. It's going to be a mess. There may be 2 posts. It might be 2 PCBs even, depending on the amount of circuitry that I'm going to need. I want to keep it spread out. I want to keep it simple to see and understand, but I may have to go with surface mount stuff in order to fit the volume of stuff. I may have to get all the stuff and just put it down on top of one of the boards and see what kind of space we have on one of the big boards. Where are the big boards? Where are they? Owie! I keep grabbing this thing and shoving my fingers into the, what is it? The through-hole soldering. Through-hole soldering, I dislike it very much because it makes little pointy daggers on the other side of the board. Pointy little daggers. They're not in here. Where are they? What did I do with them? What did I do? Where else do we have? Where did I put the big boards? Oh, here they are. They're all the way up here. Only got 2 more. Oh, no, 3. So it's possible that I have 2 boards like this sticking off of the back of this thing, just because there's so much going into it. Do I want to take apart this setup and start laying out circuit elements? Do we need to test anything else other than getting the screen working? I need to get the screen working. If I'm using the Max 333s to cut off the output, we don't need to do that test that I wanted to do, which was to test this thing outputting a DC voltage level that coordinates with 0 volts and then an external signal on the line. We don't have to deal with that. So I don't have to do that test anymore, which means that I think I'm done with this board. I think we've done all the tests that we need to do. We were able to output a waveform and then bring it all the way back into the input and then output it on a different channel so that we could compare the original output to the new output. It's pretty cool. Did we actually do that test? What was the delay? I forget. Anyway. I forget. And this is not actually the whole size of the thing. I need to cut off some of the board in order to fit it because it's larger than modular synthesizer size. Which, I mean, if this is the only home that this tester's ever going to know, it's not. It's not. So, yeah, maybe I'll make this modular size, which can be accomplished by just cutting, I think, the end row. And then this pretty much spans the entire back end of this thing. I'll have to make something that'll maybe screw in there and hold the board up. Boy, how comprehensive is this thing? So I can start unplugging elements from over here and planning out how they're going to fit in the grand scheme. Whether or not I have room for everything that I want to get done. And these will be, I'm gonna take this like at a modular standpoint. I'm gonna have these on standoffs. Same with the processor. Like it's already filling up. Oh, this doesn't need to be connected. I'm just gonna wiggle this one off. There we go. That's channel B that we're not using. That. Let's get the input here. See, it's going to be this stuff and then switching elements like the max chips on standoffs. Ow. Can you get that out of my own breadboard? Yeah, I'm definitely going to need multiple layers of PCBs. Just this in and of itself is so much. I did like, I want this to be near the edge so I can get USB into it, of course. Just a little bit of circuit planning. Or should they be like they were on the other one? I do need op amps on the other end of these. So these can pack pretty tight. And then maybe I could put the op amps for them right beneath them. I could put it underneath and have that doing that job and going out to like a pin header. Yeah, that actually may be the way that it needs to work, is to have the op amps underneath. That just means, well, how am I going to adjust them? Because I want to have potentiometers on them for the initial adjustment. So if it goes to a potentiometer that's underneath, I'm going to need to have room for adjustment pots on the outskirts. So I'll probably need to space it the width of a potentiometer for each one. And then I can have 2 pots. Well, it'll need to be like 4. Oh my God, it's so much. It's so much to consider all at once. Which is why, like I say, spread out. Spread out on these circuits. Don't torture yourself. Like if these take up this whole row, and they output, that means that on the next board, I'll have to have the Maxim muxes. The max muxes. There's a whole bunch to consider with power too. Where I'm making my 3 volts, where I'm making my 12 volts. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to have a power connector, which will be maybe the full-size power connector, because then you have 5 volts on that. I don't really want to use the 5 volts, but we are measuring. But that's for external stuff. Oh, and hopefully that distance isn't too bad. Like that, and then I have my LM voltage regulators on here. Just sitting here. Positive 10 source, negative 10 source. That goes over to the Maxim product. That probably shouldn't be here. And then you have multiple voltage regulators in this space. Laying out a PCB like on CAD would be a lot easier to do this on, and I could probably fit more in, but I'm going to keep this modular. I'm going to keep it up to, you know, various things. I mean, I could do another board like this, and then all of this stuff can live, like all the op-amp stuff can live down here. That means that getting to the adjustments, again, is not easy. But it would be like low voltage digital, analog bump, and I/O, or just I/O with the Maxim stuff and all the other gates, and then over to that, because then I have a port expander sitting on this board. Actually, the port expander should probably go here, because then all of the gate inputs could go to the port expander, all the button inputs could go to the port expander. How many ports does the port expander port? If a port expander does ports. Port expand to port, port board, port, 16. So 16 inputs. So we have 12. So 6 and 6 is 12. 13, 14, 15, 16. That could be the button and the 2 AB encoder inputs. So this could go to the port expander as well. The question is whether or not I can make that function with the delay of the port expander. Like the AB encoder going directly into the microcontroller makes it so that you can have like an assignable interrupt on it, but I can have the CD whatever. This port expander has interrupt pins. So I could assign interrupt pins for this and then the buttons as well. I wouldn't want to actually interrupt my software though, because it's going to be streaming I2S in order to make the waveforms. So when I hit a button, I don't want it to stop doing the waveform. I want it to just get to the button before it does anything else in its routine. So that's going to be a whole thing to program. All right, so we have a plan. I need to do a little bit more of consideration with this. It's probably going to end up being 2 boards. So I'm going to have to chop these on the ends, put standoffs between them, and then figure out how that's going to connect to the back of this thing. It may be that I need a piece of plastic on there or just like an X brace in order to hold those standoffs and hold all these components in place. That, or I completely give up on that scheme as a whole and just start layering these with standoffs so that I have multiple layers coming up here, and then this is just a front panel. I don't really like that prospect though, but it's, I mean, this is a bespoke case for our device, so I guess I got to make a couple little decisions here. Everything's going together pretty good though. I mean, this is going together the way I would have expected it to. Sooner rather than later, probably later, we will have something running on that screen. I would like to get that test done soon, and so you guys can see how cool the VFD looks. We'll try to get that done. Maybe we'll do that on Saturday. We have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of hardware to do, so we'll start thinking in that direction and figuring out where we can go from there. The main thing that I want to get done next is the power supply. I want to lay that out and get all of the elements of the power supply on the back end here, including a MIDI plug. Even though MIDI is supposed to be up here with the device, I figure it's cleaner to plug in MIDI from the rear if I'm using the big DIN connector. Although this is not a through-hole DIN, this is a panel mount, so I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what to do about that because we're not going to necessarily have a panel back here. Maybe we'll think about MIDI another time. I don't know. I don't want to cut all that functionality out. So, all right, anyway, I'm gibbering on because I don't have anything else to do. We will continue when I have parts, and we can do the test to see whether or not we can get a negative 12-volt current shunt operating, thinking that it's just seeing potential of what potential of 12 volts on its end. So, speaking of end, here's the end card. We only get the end card on Twitch. Not that anybody's paying attention, but the next stream is going to be in one day. I'm going to do a Saturday stream, so if you're around, if you're hanging out, you shouldn't be, though. You should be touching grass. You guys should be outside. It's been gorgeous out. I'm going to spend Friday doing like Retro Bright or something like that, and those current meters will get here tomorrow, and then we'll install them on Friday or on Saturday. So, all right. Yeah, well, when you run into a block like we have, you strategize on what you can be doing aside from it. It's just efficiency. So I will catch you guys on Saturday. In the meantime, I will be on Discord. You can find me. There's the link. SheckQW9Q. I should probably like see if we can get a real link for that. But anyway, I have a puppy to walk because she was really disappointed in me going upstairs and then coming back down. So I will catch you guys later. Until then, check out the Discord and I'll see you later. That was very I just said that. I just said that.